everybody. We're about to open this Gilliam County Court regular meeting February 7th. It is 10:06. And so first order of business that we have is the flag salute. So we'll get started with it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how to turn it off.
I was going to do that.
I didn't know how to do it. I looked at the remote and it doesn't show how to turn it off. So, okay, commissioners, I guess the first question we have here is: do we have any additions to the agenda? That I do have one change in what's posted on our agenda, and that's item number. It's an action item 2.8. It says consider resolution number 2018-01. It should say -04. And that's it, folks. It's the only one that. But of course, I think it's version number 3 that came out. So again, today is going to be a very busy day. So we'll try and get through anything as quickly as we possibly can.
We don't have anything in here about legal counsel?
Well, we do have legal counsel visiting us today. So yeah, it all kind of come after the fact, and it was scrambling around. So Reuben Cleveland will be here today.
Who?
Reuben Cleveland. Yeah, he'll be here with Joe Franell on the fiber discussion. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's going to talk to us. So
that really is part of our agenda too.
It is, yes, I guess. I don't know, I haven't heard any proposals, anything other than right now, they're trying to organize the caseload, Will's caseloads. And
who is Reuben? I don't know who.
He's a partner with.
Because I met another partner yesterday.
Did you?
At my cog.
Yeah, that was, well, she's not a partner, that was Diane McDougal. Yeah.
Find her card.
Reuben is actually the attorney for City of Arlington.
City of Arlington.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Again, there hasn't been a whole lot that has been discussed in regards to it. Okay, we've got something a little bit new on the agenda today, and really we're at that particular time. It's public comment on the agenda and also other matters. So, if we have any public comments, people are welcome to come on up and give us their peace of mind.
Huh?
What's that?
I guess I was in order then.
Yeah, you were. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, no, I really didn't have a whole lot of contact with his office until we got to about 3 o'clock on Monday. Yeah. So, and everything has been a little hectic since. So, do you want to kind of pick up some of these? We don't have anybody, although we have 10 minutes scheduled for this.
I have a question. Are we going to keep this on the agenda now?
Yes, if you're comfortable with it.
No, I think it's a good idea. I did a poll with a bunch of my county college associates, and they all have public comment on their agenda. But the only thing I'm wondering about is it says the port. I noticed the port's agenda last night when I was reading the emails, and it just says public comment on non-agenda items, and I wonder which way we want to do that. And also another thing that is handy is to put right on the agenda that it's limited to 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever.
Sure. Right.
Whatever you want to go with. But we added that when I worked at the City of Arlington, and we put a time frame on it.
Yeah, and many of them do. They have a 3-minute time limit or 5 minutes, or depending on the amount of time that they want to set aside.
I do know most of you do that.
Yeah.
I didn't because it was such a small amount of time. I thought.
Yeah.
Do you want to? In this, on this particular.
Well, I think for people that come and show up to the meetings, they see it on the agenda, they're aware that they have 3 minutes or whatever time frame that, you know.
Right, yeah, you can do it either way.
that,
We've had to use that in the cog
Mhm.
and sometimes cut people off.
Right.
But
Very
if you,
important.
my question was in doing that is, if you want to put a 3, I mean, it was the first time, and I know that most of them do that, but if you want to put a 3-minute or 5-minute, how much time do you want to block off at the beginning of the meeting?
Yeah, for that to happen. You know, of
No, we
course,
just have to cut it
Well,
off.
yeah, well, and we'll have to see
So
how many
you
take
want
advantage
to
of.
give enough
Yeah.
for 2, 3, 4 people to speak?
I guess we're gonna have to play that by ear maybe and just see how the first few meetings go. And
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why I left it.
I mean, people take advantage.
Yeah.
So-
But the port's agenda says public comment on non-agenda items. And I just wondered if you want to,
This says other matters, which I think is non-agenda item.
right, but it also says on agenda items. And do you want to
Or other
open up?
matters, it's
Yeah.
non-agenda item.
Or other matters.
you know,
I know, the port says, do you want public comment on non-agenda items, meaning that they only want people to public on things that aren't on the agenda?
Aren't on the agenda.
And we're saying both.
Well,
Right.
why wouldn't you have both?
Maybe
Well, yeah,
we want to wait till
yeah.
we're on that topic.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just things to think about.
Sure. And I'm not really sure, one of the things, I guess, when I first started, you know, Dennis, Commissioner Gronquist felt it was really important that when we were dealing with a particular subject matter that was on the agenda, he wanted the people in the audience to really have the opportunity to be able to speak and talk and be during that period of time. So I don't know, you know, whether, I think I kind of agree with what you're saying, is that if we continue allowing people to speak on those particular agenda items, they would have the opportunity to talk at the time that it's on the agenda,
Right.
as opposed to before.
Right, before the conversation even comes up.
Okay. I see I have a question out here in the audience.
No.
Chief Scobert?
I've been around council meetings for over 35 years.
Uh-huh.
So, a lot of seat time.
Yeah.
And working, setting up meetings and stuff. Generally, you afford the public the opportunity to speak, so they can't, you know, raise you don't have an open forum and open accessibility to the community and their concerns. The 3-minute, or sometimes those are 4 minutes, it's subjective.
Yeah.
Is in case you wind up with those rambling people that make no common sense at all.
Right.
And now you have a
We
mechanism
get
to
that.
shut them down.
Yeah.
But to limit only a period of time to say, okay, there's only 10 minutes for public comment will cause you more headaches. Because people, it may be a day when there's 5 people who need to talk, and it's going to be 15 minutes, say,
Yeah.
or 12 minutes. You can't say, well, our 10 minutes for public comment. You're stopping debate at that point. You're stopping public input. So generally, councils will just allow people to, whoever needs to, has the opportunity, and can't say they were denied an
Sure.
opportunity to raise an issue of concern. And it may be something as simple as, I got a problem with the dog in my neighborhood.
Mhm.
But they've got the opportunity to speak, and so, but if nobody speaks, you've allotted time, but you don't need to stop everything and wait 10 minutes. You have an audience, and they know at the beginning of your meeting is when public comment is.
So one of the things that we did with Frontier Telnet is we had public comment at the beginning of the meeting and also again at the end of the meeting. So, you know, if we weren't able to get everybody's opportunity, but of course, with Frontier Telnet, we're not really on time schedules and appointments with particular people. So we do give us people to talk in the beginning and then during the meeting, and then also again to comment on maybe things that people had heard at the end.
Well, I'm glad we
Yeah.
got it on there,
Yeah.
and we might have to play with it a little bit to get it tuned into what
Yeah,
works
yeah,
best for
so
us.
how about if we start off with this, that we'll just public comment on other matters for now. We'll go ahead and eliminate the agenda item portion of it. Okay. And we'll see how that works out, and then if there's other ways, we'll move on. Okay, you know, actually, if you don't mind, I'll kind of try to take care of some of the action items that we have down here. We do have the 2.4, well, 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, which are basically the regular court minutes, the executive session, and the January claims pending review. Were you guys able to get through the minutes? Oh, okay, all right. So we could table those until our next meeting. How about the executive session minutes there, Mike? Maybe we could pick those up. They're very short in the orange minute there. And 2.3, is any?
Oh, sure, we can do that by 3.
Yeah. Well, I entertain a motion to do that, you guys. So
I move we approve the January claims pending review.
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve January claims pending review. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, how about if we start on item 2.4, which is the Fair Board appointment. We received 2 letters of interest, one from Mr. Daniel Perry, and then another one from Amanda Wilson.
I move that we go with the Fair Board's recommendation and appoint Daniel Perry.
Okay.
Well, I'll second it.
Well, okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the Gilliam County Fair Board's recommendation of Daniel Perry to be appointed to the Fair Board vacant position. So, discussion?
Yeah, looking at the letter, yeah, it showed Amanda Wilson had submitted a letter previous to the Fair Board's recommendation. And we never saw anything from this Daniel Perry.
Well,
So maybe I jumped me. I mean, I got the Fair Board letter.
We put it in this,
yeah. We received it quite some time ago.
it was at the December 6th court
okay.
meeting, and I just got your copy of
Thanks for
it.
doing that. Okay, all right. Yeah, November 6th.
Yeah, it was-
To the Fair Board,
December.
right.
Right.
I thought Amanda had done a good job of selling herself there. Almost go the other way, but since for some reason the Fair Board recommended, they didn't have much in their letter, just recommendation.
right.
They probably looked it over closer than we have.
Yeah, I would think so. You
That
know.
would be my reason.
Okay. And I tend to agree with you, Commissioner Weimer, on the fact that it's sometimes really difficult to go against the recommendation that somebody's giving us at that time, and so.
Kind of like when we appointed Leslie for commissioner.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll get ready to move on this. The motion is to go ahead and go with the Fair Board's recommendation and appoint Daniel Perry. Since we've already went through the discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Good. All right, so that, we're right there at that 10:15, and it's time to open the public hearing for supplemental budget hearing. This is a hearing on proposed supplemental budget for the Gilliam County fiscal year 2017-18. The purpose of the hearing is to adjust the budget to reflect the unexpected expenses and revenues that have occurred during the fiscal year. The items to be discussed with interested persons will be the following: state grants awarded to coordinated care organizations and the local community advisory council, additional funds for the victims, the BOCA program, and additional funding for the Gilliam County Library. So, I guess at this time, I don't have anybody on the list who is wanting to speak in behalf of pros, cons, in the public hearing. I think I'll give it just a couple more minutes and see if anybody does arrive wanting to. look down the hall and see if anybody's walking. Well, Commissioners, it doesn't really appear as if we're going to have anybody who wants to have public comment in regards to the supplemental budget hearing. I think I'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion of this, and we'll move into information from Budget Officer Nathan Hammer. So with that being said, we'll close the public hearing. Nathan?
Just 3 adjustments. 2 of them, the first 2 adjustments, the coordinated care organization, the VOCA grant, are both, we've got more money than we thought we were going to get. So we're awarded more funds, that's good. So
We want to spend it.
Of course.
Okay.
And the last one, the library purchased a desk that cost more than was in their budget, and that pushes them over their appropriations, so we need to just adjust their budget up. It's actually $1,000, they had $2,000, and we're just moving it to 3. And the way we're going to do that is the beginning fund balance was also misestimated during the budgeting process, so we're just adding $1,000 to the beginning fund balance. And then we're going to add $1,000 to the equipment replacement line item.
So you can add money to the beginning fund balance?
That's my understanding of it.
Where are we getting it from?
Well, it's there already. It's just the budget amount was
The budget.
short of the actual.
The actual is bigger.
Yeah, the actual is
Okay.
bigger. Yeah, we're not adding any, it's just the added to the budget. I guess it should have been more clear.
So just to kind of go through this, so for the record, to everybody know, this supplemental budget has got the resource funds from the state government for the Coordinated Care and Local Community Advisory Council in the amount of $20,000. The resource funds for the state government for the VOCA grant that is there has been increased to $23,000. And the resource funds for the county library, the beginning fund balance has been adjusted to 41,000, yeah, instead of 40, which is being used for the capital purchase desk, as just mentioned.
So though the capital purchase line item is not being adjusted?
It is being adjusted increased by $1,000. It's currently $2,000, and we're going to increase it to $3,000 because they've expended $2,900 and some change out of there. It's $2,983 or $2,900 to increase. So
So why isn't that in this also? Shouldn't it be? If we're increasing another line item
well, you got
on a budget?
It is. Oh, I know what you're saying. Why isn't it on the announcement? Is that what you're asking?
It looks like just the resources are listed.
Yeah, just the resources are listed on the
This is
announcement.
the resolution.
And on the resolution, it's
Yeah.
listed.
Okay. So now I got something.
And it's a little different in this case because normally we've got a one-to-one relationship between the resource and the requirement. But in this case, we've got a combined resource because it's a beginning fund balance. So
Right.
it's not as clear as it normally is. So it looks a little funny because it doesn't look like it balances, but I assure you in reality it does.
You just need a motion to.
I need a motion to approve the resolution.
I move that we approve supplemental budget resolution number 2018-02.
Do we need an amount on that too?
I don't know, it's a resolution.
I think it's just
Yeah.
as written.
I think we can go with what she said.
I'll second it.
You know. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the budget resolution number 2018-02, resolution adopting supplemental budget and making appropriations to fiscal year 2017-18. Discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Nathan. All right, so we'll pick up down on the action item, consider appointment to the North Central Public Health District Budget Committee. That's item number 2.5.
I heard from Lori Anderson, she said she would be interested in filling that appointment. So I would make a motion that we appoint Lori Anderson to the North Central Public Health District Budget Committee.
I'll second that. So it's been moved and seconded to appoint Lori Anderson to the North Central Public Health District Budget Committee. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now it gets a little bit more. Item number 2.6, it's the recommendation of the Oregon Chief Medical Examiner. We did receive information from Mimi McDonald with North Central Public Health. Also, I attached a copy of a contract that Sherman County has with the public health entity. This Sherman County, basically, Sherman County, Wasco County both have contracts with North Central Public Health. It's always been right in around $500, a year to take care of these things for both of those particular counties. We don't have that budget. We have roughly $1,000 that's in the death investigation line item, which is in 106. So we have enough money there to be able to cover what is here already budgeted. It's in.
Is that in the sheriff?
It's in the general fund. It's it's actually in the health
Health department.
department.
In the
Yes.
gym area, is that?
No, actually, there was investigations that was involved with it. So.
Where did we leave this last time? I mean, I remember
Well,
the sheriff came
okay.
in and said you were gonna.
Yeah.
Get the DAs.
We needed to talk to the DA because technically the DA is the one that gives the approval of who that individual is going to be. So everything, we're out in front of the district attorney. The district attorney approved this. The next process, and of course the sheriff has approved this. The next process is it goes off to the state medical examiner. For our recommendation, if we so choose to recommend this individual.
We're talking about this, not this contract?
Not the contract yet. The contract is still kind of out here because we don't know whether this is the person that's going to be selected. So I'll go over this again. The sheriff kind of had to okay, Mimi. Then the sheriff said the DA also has to okay her. We got both of those. Both of those individuals said Mimi is the person that they recommend. So then it comes to us, the recommendation. We send the recommendation off to the state medical examiner, and it's the state medical examiner that actually appoints her to that position.
So what are we doing today?
Today, the only thing that we would do would be to approve the recommendation of Mimi McDonald as Gilliam County's medical examiner.
Oh, I thought you said you've already sent that off to the.
No, we haven't done that yet because we haven't approved, we don't have the recommendation yet.
Right.
So then the contract would be coming to play.
Okay, I have a question because I thought that when the sheriff was here, I thought he said that this was something that we haven't ever paid for in the past.
Right.
Right.
And this is also something that the deputies were, the deputies do too as well?
Yeah, they're called deputy medical examiners. And we're not paying for anything unless the services are needed. So it would be, for instance, we may have 3 or 4 things that happen, and the deputy medical examiner will be the individual who, through the district attorney, makes the decision that this person met the criteria. Again, you can see what the duties are.
I'm on
And then-
a piece of paper. Well, this doesn't. Okay.
I guess I just, the way I was remembering it was, and maybe I should have went and talked to the sheriff before the meeting, I guess, but I thought that we were waiting on something else. I thought that he was looking into something. It seemed like he was, of whether or not we needed to appoint.
We need to, that's all my notes. He was the one who came and said we had to go to the district attorney and district attorney.
And it's in statute that says the governing body makes a recommendation to the chief.
So we're just recommending,
We're just recommending,
again.
yeah.
But
But we can't use our guys.
in her, as I read somewhere, that her cost was, I mean, there was this definite associated high cost involved with going with her recommendation.
I don't know whether it's a,
I read somewhere how much it was gonna cost.
I think that was the last time we
Well,
talked
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it was something I read just recently, I thought.
Um,
But anyway,
yeah, why don't we see if we can get
we're still talking about that too, though, aren't we, with her recommendation?
Yeah, we're
Paying her according to that. We recommend her, we're saying we're willing to pay what she's asking.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a contract with North Central Public Health. Yeah.
So we're contracting or she's work, this is getting
Okay,
too much.
okay. We have to say, okay, that's why I sent both, what is the contract, so that you guys would have an idea about what the probabilities of would be in the contract with them. Yeah, in the past, Dr. Carlson performed these duties as, he said, because of my friendship with Dave Jones and Dennis Bruno. Now, of course, where he has decided not to do it anymore, now it goes to, public health, and this is the contract that they send out. Now, again, for me, I was like, all right, what is this person gonna do that we can't take care of with the deputy medical examiner?
Well,
I don't, if the state doesn't accept our recommendation, then, I guess we start all over again on trying to get somebody who will be that. I'm waiting for Gary to come up.
so it really becomes, we're still gonna be contracting with North Central Public Health?
Yes,
Okay.
who she works for.
Okay. But it'd be an additional charge or not?
Yeah, it's over and above what we get as far as public health services.
Okay,
Depending, we may use her, we may not use her.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a call of the sheriff or the district attorney at the time.
So, yeah, okay, so that's the only one expressed an interest, I guess.
Well,
Or got
what's
recommended to
really,
us.
yeah, no, it's really a longer story than that, because what, the sheriff's department was pretty, they just didn't feel that they were getting the work out of Dr. Carlson that they,
Right now.
well, at that time, and so they were wanting to get in contact with Dr. McDonald to have her start doing it.
Okay.
And so that started the ball, and I said, well, you just can't switch, there's a process that we have to go through, and that was back in November, and let them know, so. Anyway, then we went through the process of finding out whether Dr. Carlson wanted to continue doing this. And then he said no, so then it was approached Mimi, who had already kind of accepted it. Okay, Chris, your recommendation on this was?
Well, Gary's on a conference call that he can't leave right now, but he said it was up to the DA, which there's the DA right there.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a meeting in here.
But I did not realize, I mean, we just got a bill. How much was that bill that we just got?
$184.
Oh, 184.
Yeah.
Okay, phew. Leanne thought it was 840. I'm like, what, for one call? No, I don't think so.
Oh,
But the Sherman County, I think when we talked to them, they said that they had spent like $500 and some dollars and 184, yeah. Like $560 for the last year that they used her was all of the, you know, that they had paid. I think they have $1,000 line item that they use. But again, it's through the DA's office.
Yeah, and Marion, I'll let you go ahead. I mean, the discussion we had the other day on your plans with the medical examiner.
Yeah. So, in my discussion with you the other day, it seemed like you were pretty aware of how we got to where we are.
I guess I'm the one that probably stalled things because it seemed to me like when we talked about it at the last time we talked about it, that Gary was saying that the deputies also performed this service and he wanted to do, I thought he was going to do some checking on it, you know, concerned about the fact that we would have to be paying for it now versus something in the past that we've gotten for free.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if he thought that maybe we could get by without somebody that was going to charge us, if we could use our deputies to fill that role as, you know, deputy.
Right.
So I might have just been confused.
No.
Dr. Deputy?
Dr. Deputies.
Actually, hold on.
So can I say something about that too?
Okay.
The other thing that happened.
Oh, there's one.
The other thing that happened about that is that when Mimi actually showed up, when she actually came, she came downstairs and had a long conversation with Gary and I after she was here. And she pretty much told us that she doesn't, you know, she doesn't want to, what I wanted to say, you know, steal us blind. And, you know, take money and stuff like that. She does the minimal that she has to do to get that death certificate done. And, you know, it's really not that big of a deal for her to do what she has to do. And like $148 is what, or $184, I guess, for the unintended death that she helped with us in Arlington just recently, so.
Okay. All right, that was my only concern,
Right.
was just what Gary was saying in the last meeting.
I mean, Marion, you talked about utilizing the deputy medical examiners as much as you possibly could.
Right. So, the history was that Dr. Carlson provided this service for free as a supervising physician at the clinic. And so we don't have that benefit anymore. There's not that relationship. So we've had, and after he was no longer supervising physician, he still just did it. Was available for a phone call. But he's less and less available. And for a while, we were having a hard time even having an appointed deputy medical examiners. We're pretty well staffed there right now through the sheriff's department. And then my assistant, Maggie Cooper, is also a deputy medical examiner. So really, this is a new area, how much it's going to cost. And so we're going to try to find a way where we don't have to use the medical examiner that's appointed by the county that will charge us for the time. But we don't have to use it any more than we have to. But it's going to take a year for us to figure out how to minimize that. When the deputy medical examiners may not have to consult her, when they may, and when they should. But really, what the benefit here is it's supporting our deputy medical examiners, which is signed up for that role when they didn't have to, and they get called out in the middle of the night, and they need an MD medical examiner that they can call.
Yeah.
And so we thought, you know, because this was not a suspicious death, that we got this bill on, and if we have this for everyone, this is not going to work out. But I think we're going to figure that out. Wasco County, I think, was mentioned last time, contracts with this ME, so does Sherman County. Their bills were less than $1,000, I think closer to $500 in previous years. And she, as was mentioned, she talked to the sheriff about ways that her expense can be minimized.
Great. Okay, then I would make a motion that we recommend Marion McDonald to the Oregon Chief Medical Examiner to be Gilliam County Medical Examiner.
I would second that with the title doctor.
Thank you.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve recommending to the Oregon Chief Medical Examiner for Gilliam County Medical Examiner appointment, Dr. Lee, well, actually she goes by Miriam McDonald. Yeah, Dr. Lee. Okay, any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good.
This deal with the public health is kind of interesting because it's talking about Wasco County. And it says the public health, but it says it's Sherman County title, but all the pages refer to Wasco County on the bottom. And that's kind of the same way with this, is talk about Wasco and Sherman.
I know.
What they'll do. I think it's just an example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know, I mean, we didn't have any other way of.
So at some time we gotta have some more legal.
Correct, right,
Somewhere.
right. And that will happen after the fact that the state
Yeah.
agrees to our recommendation.
Okay.
I know. Okay, next order of business, 10:30, we've got Darryl Houghtelling to Maintenance Department staff report. Good morning, Darryl.
Good morning, guys. This is my February 7th semi-annual staff report from the Maintenance and Grounds Department. I'll start off with the Courthouse and Grounds. We've recently hired Herb Kaufman for the part-time janitor position that was open. The big news was the new boiler was installed at the end of September, which I'm sure you all knew quite a bit about that, and it's working well, and so that's good news. Waiting to hear about roof bids from Pillar Consulting. Jeff Schott told me last week that he's waiting until about March or April to go forward to giving us bids, since we wouldn't need it until the summertime. Currently painting rooms for winter projects that were on our maintenance schedule. New sinks have been ordered for the boiler room. The one in there is from the late 1950s, and it's just time for a new one. So we're going to have one for the sink and for mopping, and one for employee needs dumping coffee or whatever they need to do. And the last thing was I'm seeking permission to enter into a contract for the elevator maintenance company to come in twice a year. I think they have a contract in front of you somewhere there. It's $85 a month. They come out twice a year, and we need
What's
this.
this now?
This just came up.
Yeah,
We just got
sorry.
copies of that this morning. He just brought it in yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, and we had an elevator inspector come out about 2 weeks ago, and we did not pass because our maintenance isn't up to snuff. We need to have it twice a year. They've been letting us get away with it once a year because where we're at ever since I've been here. Plus, we had a phone line issue that we're working on currently, so there's two items that we didn't pass. And I called the elevator company, and this is the contract that they came up with. That they'll come out when they come up for the rest of town, like for Hotel Condon and the Elks, twice a year, and they'll keep us in compliance and legal. If you were to just get them to come out from Portland, like in an emergency situation, it costs, I believe it's $447 an hour. So this contract is kind of a bargain, I guess. We need to.
What's the cost?
It was $85 a month per year, so about a little over $1,000.
So Darryl, you're telling me, so is the elevator out of service right now?
It's not out of service. We have he's giving us a 90-day extension to get it
Okay.
up to code to have the.
Okay, so the 90 days will get us to the next time that they're out, which is April, May?
Yes,
Okay.
they work with they work closely, obviously, with just like our boiler company did with us.
Okay.
So they would allow us to keep an operation until they come out.
Sounds better than Gobi.
I'm not sure.
Non-emergent rides shut down till we accept the contract. We got our arm twisted on right now.
Some way I knew
Sorry.
that was gonna come out. So twice a year, they're gonna come out and inspect it, and that should allow us to fulfill
That's correct.
requirements, so. Okay. I had,
Is this something we need to run by legal counsel?
I think we already have an agreement, it's just being changed from 1 month, or 1 year, once a
No,
year.
we never actually had an agreement in
Oh.
place. They used to come out kind of a courtesy when they're in town, but
Okay,
that person had retired, and that's why we've had over a year since they came out, and that's been our problem now. So now we're trying to do everything legal, to have a contract.
Legal.
so,
Service contract.
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't know how complicated it was.
well, I haven't,
It's fairly simple, it's not so difficult a language.
Right. Yeah, Leanne looked over it with me briefly.
And where does it say on here that it's $85 a month?
I couldn't find that.
Oh, I see it.
Do you?
It's like in the middle of everything.
It automatically renews. I
Price.
think you have to give 90 days notice if you, in writing, if you want to terminate it.
That's correct.
They
So
can
you're kind of locked in.
increase the cost by the CPI.
Page 6 of 8 on there, if you're looking.
Okay, well, yeah, it was.
So you've looked this over, Leanne?
Quickly. And it was yesterday or the day before, when legal counsel was, I'm not really sure at that point what we were doing. And I
Right.
did look over and I did feel like it was pretty straightforward. And
Right.
I sent it to
That's all.
John Anderson for insurance review. And he
Oh,
he
okay, that
responded.
would be,
Yeah, that's,
so, and we don't have that back yet,
We
right?
do.
Yep.
We do? Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
He always responds very quickly.
That's good. Well, I move we approve a service contract with, what's the name of the company?
Tyson Krupp.
What?
Tyson Krupp, I believe, is
Okay, yeah,
something close to it.
Tyson Krupp, an amount of $85 twice a year to,
One,
what?
$85 a month.
yeah, I
Oh,
think,
$85 a month, but they only come twice a year.
Correct.
Okay, get that straight. Yeah, $85 a month in perpetuity, no. What else do I need?
that's good, I think, yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the service agreement with Tyson Krupp for the Tyson Krupp Elevator Corporation in the amount of $85 a month to perform maintenance services.
Yeah.
Is it going to be maintenance services or just inspection?
It's
services?
maintenance.
Okay, maintenance services for the courthouse.
And the inspector comes in and makes sure that maintenance was done. That's
Okay.
what they
Okay, all right.
And for what term are we doing this?
Well, it's yearly and it keeps on going unless we notify them for a 90-day period previous to next year that we want another company to do
So,
it.
all right. Good. Okay,
That should
all right.
do it.
Okay. I think I'm going to throw in upon legal counsel
Review. That's-
review. Would that,
Okay.
if you guys don't mind?
Sure.
Okay. Any
That
further
way we don't
discussion?
have to come back.
Yeah.
Unless there's a problem.
Right. Any further? Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Barry, you got that. Okay.
Okay, moving on with the Davenport Birds Park, it's closed until the Tumbleweed Tournament here in March, which is coming up in a month. We painted all the restrooms and trim on all the buildings this last summer, since my last report. We still like to do improvements to the pavilion and site hookup areas. Pillar Consulting had said they're going to help me with that, and he owes me a bid, but he hasn't got to it yet. I talked to him last week, along with the roof issues. The committee that we had me create a committee, we agreed that we needed new sinks, new counters, new lighting, windbreaks, and a propane grill out there as the improvements more. Shuttler Industrial Park, water samples have all been cleaned this year. I'm still doing monthly water readings and had to replace the pump house computer board last summer. After about 10 years, it just finally went out, so that was one expense we incurred. We're dealing with the drain issue at Cargill and hoping to have a resolution soon. The drain traps, there seems to be not able to drain properly, and we're not sure where the problem is, so. I talked to Steve about it.
In that work we did before.
I thought it was, Mike.
Yeah. We've had troubles.
Yeah, with this drain all along, and maybe we can have Jeff touch a little bit on it as he comes up, but it has been an issue there.
Periodically cleaning the bugs and sweeping and cleaning the restroom at the old wheat lab and having the heat on during the winter still. Had to replace some plumbing valves as the water wasn't working this summer. The library, we're cleaning and taking the garbage out once a week and taking care of the back landscape yard. And the sidewalk next to the back building, and we've talked about this before, still needs some attention. It's kind of a safety hazard. I know we talked about replacing or taking the building down or what the county court's going to do eventually, but I just wanted to still bring that up, that there's still a safety issue with the sidewalk there. And senior transport driving, I'm driving for them pretty sporadically, probably about twice a month on average when I look at the calendar. You guys have some questions?
So you guys remember the discussion on the sidewalk on, it's on the south side of the old warehouse.
I remember the discussion, I just don't remember where we left it.
Well, basically, we were looking, we need to go ahead and replace it's not really a sidewalk there, it's actually concrete that's broke up so much that it's now gravel and it is a tad bit dangerous. So where things we're at with it is we needed to go through the SHPO, which is the State Historical whatever. Preservation. We have got a response on that.
Agenda item 3.2.
Yes, yeah, I knew it was someplace on here. So we can kind of pick up on that if you want, but basically we've been okay to go ahead and do something with the building. It still has to go through the city planning aspect of things. I believe that has been scheduled. Rachel is not here, and I thought maybe Catherine was, but she had stepped out for just a minute, so.
Rachel's email said in February, their
February.
meeting.
I mean, I probably have it here. So, anyway, it goes through that process, and then we need to make a decision whether we're going to tear it down, whether we want to, what we might want to be able to do with the building, so. Right now, we were very limited on what our options were until we heard back from the State Historical Group.
Their letter was fairly non-committal, in my opinion.
You think, yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Painting in the courthouse?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And some of the rooms,
Right.
or in room 2 or 3 that we're going to paint this winter.
This area here was painted somewhere, these doors.
The doors where you probably noticed them sticking last court meeting, I think.
One meeting in here that I almost broke my foot trying to get it open.
That was your foot mark on it?
But it wasn't, I mean, both doors were not.
Yeah,
operating good.
I still cloned them up. They seem to be sliding a lot better now.
Yeah.
That explains the foot mark on it. Thank you.
Darryl gave me a little tour of his work, his room down there, and showing me where the changes they were going to be talking about making.
Yeah.
So,
You got the opportunity to see the new boiler?
right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So any further discussions on some of Darryl's work? And are we okay? Do we need to pick up item 3.2 again on the building?
Do we need to
No, we don't, I
Talk
mean,
anymore about it?
yeah, we don't really need
I think
to.
the
I
only
just wanted
thing-
to make sure you guys were made aware of.
The issue is the safety deal and us not doing something about it.
Exactly,
That-
exactly.
And maybe the road department should go in and rip out all the old concrete and get some gravel down at least.
Well, that's, that's a possibility.
While there's still, who knows how long, it's still indefinite
Mhm.
before we're gonna have a decision of what we're gonna do. I know it's getting lighter and not as dangerous that
Yeah,
way, but
okay. So what do you think, road commissioner?
pull them off a big project they're doing down on baseline
Uh-huh.
maybe.
Well,
Before they get to grade the roads.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Well, I don't think that it would hurt. I just didn't know what opportunities, I mean, if the ship had come back and said that we couldn't do anything with the building other than leave it there,
Oh, yeah.
then, we might as well go ahead and pour the sidewalk and, make the move, but.
Even there could be a lot of work done along the outside.
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that. So,
Siding, that sort of thing.
okay, well, we'll have a conversation with the roadmaster and see
Yeah.
how quickly we can get that accomplished.
I'll
Okay.
try to remember.
Okay. I have no further questions, Darryl. Thank you for your report. Move on. We've got Jeff Schott here with Pillar Construction, our consulting, I'm sorry. To talk about the demolition of the Fair Board home. We sent out bids, or RFP, received bids back.
We did, yes.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So just some background, we did asbestos abatement on the project that was completed in November. So this is just the demo portion of it. We solicited bids from 4 different people. We got 2 bids back. Got one from Bloom Construction for $8,606 and one from Rutherford Construction for $11,200. Bloom's done a lot of work here in the past. That's a lower number. So my recommendation is to award the project to Bloom Construction for $8,606.
Yeah, where's Bloom Construction? Where are they out of?
Powell Butte or Bend, I think
Okay,
Patterson
yeah,
Bend.
and they're-
So they did the sidewalk project around
Right,
the courthouse
yeah.
here, and we've been subcontractors on the fire station and the memory care, the warehouse project, and they, I believe, will be a subcontractor on the slug water conservation.
And what about the demo one?
Yeah, they were subcontracted by Griffin to do the demo on what was known as the research.
So, Rutherford Construction is an entity that's right here. I believe Rusty lives here. Was there a subcontract portion of that with Watkins Trucking or something, Jeff?
I believe that there was, yes. That's my understanding.
Yeah, that's kind of my understanding also, so, because we really thought maybe we might at least receive 3, one from Watkins Trucking also.
Right.
Anyway, okay.
I would make a motion that we go with Jeff's recommendation and award the bid for demolition of the Fairgrounds Caretakers House to Bloom Construction in the amount of $8,606.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to award the demolition of the Gilliam County Fair Board House to Bloom Construction in the amount of $8,606. Discussion? I just kind of have one small comment. It's really kind of difficult at times when, in trying to be able to support the local people here, it's not Jeff's fault, it's not anybody's fault, it's just difficult at times when we see the money that we have here ending up going out of county. And that's really all I've got to say about that, so.
They had the opportunity.
They
right?
certainly did, yes, there's no doubt about it. So that being discussed, my point of view on this. So, no further comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll get those contracts together.
We do have something coming on a little bit later. in regards to Kevin Hagwood around
Yep.
1:30? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, we're darn close to our appointment with Mitch Saul, almost back on. So we do have to consider, item 2.7, consider Summer Springs Village request for their earmarked funds.
How many dollars are we talking? I can't remember that.
They put those in those letters.
Yeah.
They can do this.
Certainly would, and I don't remember what the amount was. Nathan, do you remember what
150.
Summit Springs earmarked funds?
I thought it was a little over $100,000, but I don't remember the exact value.
150,000.
150?
That sounds right.
I move we approve the disbursement of funds to Summit Springs Village Corporation as presented, as earmarked in our budget of $150,000.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to disperse the funds to Summit Springs Village, the earmarked dollars in the 2017-18 budget, in the amount of $150,000. Okay, discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, you know, I think we're close enough to go ahead and have Mitch Saul of Oster Professional Group come. It's an overview of the 2016-17 audit report and to consider the approval of resolution number 2018-3. Okay.
Since I haven't been here in a while. Information, and I'm going to kind of hand out here. This is basically just some charts and graphs, historical information, tracking trends in the county, and this is the handout we'll go through. One more? All right, so here's a handout we'll take a look at. Like Judge Chapter said, my name is Mitch Saul. I'm a CPA with Oster Professional Group. We have 4 CPA partners in our office. We've been involved in county audit here for nearly 20 years, I think. Bob was telling me it's been quite a while. I myself have been on the audit team for 11 and kind of the primary auditor here for like the last 8 years. So have a lot of history with the county. And basically we kind of one of your biggest expenses, and we take that very seriously when we come here. We spend a lot of time working with Nathan and Ellen in the clerk's office in particular, so I'd like to express our gratitude for their help right out of the gate here. Without further ado, a little handout here I'd like to go through real quick. And I have another copy here if anybody is interested in looking at it as I go. I have a couple more pieces here. So take one. I think there might be one more handout. And the rest of this is mine. Okay, so first thing I'd like to do is just give you an idea where we can find the results of the audit. Since I haven't been here in quite a while, I think it's important to kind of give you an idea of why we're here, and then give you, as the board of directors of the county, hiring us to do your audit every year, give you an idea where to look in the audit report to find the results. So without further ado here, if you open up your little handout, it's kind of 3 reasons that we're here to do the audit. The main thing we're here for is to provide accountability to the taxpayers of Gilliam County.
Can you folks hear him?
Do I need to slow down?
Okay, because he's not very
Okay,
close to the
microphone.
microphone.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So we're here to issue an opinion on whether your financial statements fairly represent the activity of the county. That includes lots of things: testing checks, samples of checks. We spent a lot of time looking at Ellen's payroll calculations. We double check bank reconciliations. We look at basically every major transaction area that the county has. That involves both money and compliance. The other piece of this is that we have a responsibility to test for compliance with state statutes,
with generally accepted accounting principles, all of these kind of material items that go into us forming our opinion. Second piece here is basically the state required you to, right? That's the other reason we have to have an audit, is the state tells you if you have over $150,000 expended in a year, you need to have a review. If you have over $500,000 expended in a year, you have to have an audit. So we're well beyond the $500,000 meeting an audit threshold here. So really those are the state's telling you have to have an audit, and that's why you have to pay somebody every year to do an audit. So the results of the audit this year, as far as the financial statements themselves go, I hope everybody has a copy of the audit report in front of them. That's one thing I don't have extra copies for, because it costs money. But
If it wants, well, there's a couple more.
right. We talked about the $150,000 commitment a few minutes ago, verified as well. It's always in the notes to the financial statements. If you want to know what that commitment is from year to year, that's information that we accumulate and report to financial statements every year. Kind of the 30,000 foot view, this report is basically the ownership of the county. We contract with the county to prepare the report, to prepare the financial statements on a GAAP basis. But we've got an official at the county that has some level of expertise to review and approve what we do. Nathan, in this case, reviews our numbers, our adjusting entries that we propose, the MD&A that's in here that basically is the narrative on the county's behalf of what we expect to happen and what happened. All of those things are ownership of the county. The only things that we really own in this report are our reports, basically the results of what we found. That's the only responsibility I have for these financial statements. It's kind of confusing, right? We have a finding in the audit report that we have every single year related to this inability to prepare financial statements. That doesn't mean we can't reconcile bank accounts. We don't do budget to actual financial statements actively on a monthly basis. We don't calculate payroll right. Basically what that means is doing things like making an estimate of what the total PERS liability is in Infinity, tracking fixed assets, depreciation, which not super complicated, but once you have a history of 80 or so years of being a government or 100 years of being a government, all of these things become more complicated. But the long and short of it is you've got to be held responsible to being trained. So we go to school for a week, a year, basically related to audits and preparing financial statements. So the long and short of it is you'd almost have to have a CPA or someone with the equivalent training annually and historical background that we have at our office to be able to take responsibility for those financial statements. That doesn't mean that I don't think that Nathan wanted to spend 2 months to learn how to do it and learn all the nuances of GAAP to do it, but he couldn't. We just had it. And really it doesn't make a lot of fiscal sense to hire somebody with that level of skill, in-house. Right? I mean, you can't hire somebody like me, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure I would like working with everybody here, but I'd probably demand way more than what the budget allow for you to pay me to be your fiscal officer, for example. So that's really the big finding that we have every year is this inability to prepare financial statements. So without kind of getting bogged down any more than I already have, I'll give you an idea of where to find the results in the audit report here. So if we flip to page 1 through 3 here, and on the top of page 2, this is our opinion paragraph on the financial statements. This is basically the whole point of doing an audit. The main driving point of doing an audit is to give our opinion on your financial statements. All positive affirmations, basically we're stating that these financial statements are in conformity with GAAP, which is good because we draft them on your behalf, right? I mean, I hate to have a finding with your financial statements because we did it, which would only be something like if we couldn't justify the historical cost of a large asset. We've had that would be the problem in the past, that we didn't have any records of what, say, it costs to build the City Hall building in the city we do. So it's kind of a qualification more than a negative mark, but here we don't have any negative marks to say as far as the GAAP opinion goes. We do have one finding, so if we flip to page 101, we're required to kind of document the processes and procedures of the county, to evaluate the internal control policies and procedures that we have here, and to report anything that we think is material. So the only thing, as I mentioned before, that we found to be material is this material weakness related to inability to prepare GAAP financial statements. So if you want to flip, okay. Yeah, so everything's summarized in my report too, but it's nice and visual if I have an audit report and I'll into it. So again, short of hiring somebody or contracting with another CPA firm or coming up with another solution, in-house, that's gonna, finance gonna be there, you know. There's only so much we can do short of spending a pretty significant amount of money to address that finding as far as drafting financial statements. We also have, you know, part of these review and approval controls also make sure that we're independent of the county still in drafting. So that's part of Nathan saying, hey, here's my final review. I agree, there's nothing here that I see that's wrong. I've reviewed the journal entries, they all make sense to me. Those sorts of things are all part of maintaining our independence and the ability to still do the audit while, you know, drafting the financial statement. So in practice, I don't do anything as far as putting the numbers for the financial statements together. My responsibility is to do the reports because I'm, you know, the lead auditor. Bob, the managing partner, and I think him and I had been in the last court meeting we attended, we've been there together. He's kind of taken a step back from being a primary auditor on engagements, and so he's now our quality control reviewer on 90% of our engagements and basically the drafter of all of our financial statements. Between him and his daughter Jessica in the office, that's kind of their role, what they do all to. So we've done a pretty good job of segregating our practice where I'm not involved in making those decisions and making estimates, you know, those sorts of things that are part of the financial statements. I physically don't work on them anymore either. It used to be, we didn't have enough people to really do that. So as we've gotten bigger, we've been able to segregate our practice in such a way that that's not nearly the concern that we do it as far as independence goes. But it doesn't really address your ability to do the financial statements, right? So. Okay, so I think the biggest issue that we have this year, and I think Steve would agree, is if we flip to 103 and 104, this is basically where we report any issues of compliance with Oregon minimum standards. So this year, there's two issues, two minimum standards that we have violations related to. One, Oregon local budget law. So we have some over expenditures of our budgeted appropriations, and that's the reason for the resolution that we have to adopt this year. So on page 104, all of those budget violations are listed. The only things, let's see.
We went over in all of these?
Come again?
We went over in all of these?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so what we have here is each of these is an appropriation in the budget, right? A line item in the budget. It looks like a pile of them, but really I think we probably have 1,000 different appropriations, or at least 500. I would comfortably say there's 500. Some of them are harder than others to address, right? I mean, some of them are lack of control of spending, inability to forecast what expenses are coming up in your department, you know, those sorts of things. Gap financial statements in Oregon local budget law, as the county applies to the county, is on a modified accrual basis. So that takes into account the 60-day window after the end of the year where we need to accrue any expenses and any revenues that would have been related to the previous year. So in practicality this year, that meant after June 30th of 2017, we looked through the end of August for anything that was related to the June 30th of 2017 year. I'm going to give you kind of my personal viewpoint on how this happens, you know, especially in the county government. I sympathize with the predicament we're in here and holding people accountable. We have a lot of elected officials that are also department heads. You know, the court only has so much leverage to hold people department head accountable. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not still responsible for it, right? As the ultimate governing body of the court, of the county. But I'm not sure I guess the stick is the question always in this case. And I've had this discussion twice in other counties that had similar issues, right? And the history is the same. You know, it's the same few departments usually that are the, I don't want to say offenders because I think that's a very strong word to use, but that's where public contracting in particular. The local budget law, I wouldn't say there's a real pattern where these, over expenditures happen. Sometimes we have to hire somebody extra, to cover it. Sometimes it's just that we have an emergency that we have to, we don't have any choice but to spend money towards the end of the year. I guess the long and short of it is something needs to happen mid-June where we can start doing a projection and we can make a resolution to adjust our budget to reflect what actually is going to happen. Not an easy job, it really isn't. And I would say roughly half of our clients that we audit have a budget violation that we end up reporting. And mostly our larger entities where the control over that spending is dispersed, right? I mean, you can't really, Nathan can't tell the road department not to spend money. You know, it's not really in his scope of authority to do that. So, you know, the budget officer, while responsible for preparing the budget, isn't necessarily fully charged to execute it, I guess, is the most appropriate way to state it, you know. I liken it to our office, right? In my office, if I'm in charge of the budget and somebody's spending more money than they should, I'm gonna sit them down and say, hey, you can't spend any money until you get back on, track, or your travel expenses are too much. There's only so much authority for any elected official to hold any other elected official accountable. Without it being extremely specific, hopefully I've conveyed my viewpoint. I'd be curious to see if you can come up with, I'd be excited to see somebody come up with an innovative solution to this. I'm just not sure exactly what that would be.
In the years that you've been working on our audit, how often has this happened?
A budget violation?
No, this particular violation. Spending over appropriations.
Okay, regularly, nearly every year. I would say every year, but that sounds absolute, and there might have been an exception. So while these might be larger and a few more than normal, you know, in volume, it's not an abnormality. And again, it's not an abnormality at places where they have a finance director. You know, out in Jefferson County, and they have a handful of budget violations, and they have somebody that is very diligent at the end of every year, but, you know, their sheriff still bought a rig at the end of the year that, you know, there's nothing you can do about June 30th. You know, that's kind of the cutoff date. You can't do anything to your budget after that. So while this year it's more in the open though, right, we have to do a resolution formally to the Secretary of State this year to address these things. It's always been in statute that this resolution was necessary. It's never been enforced in the past is the problem, right? The new Secretary of State, head of the Audits Division, this is, you know, as far as we're concerned, this is kind of her, I'm in control now, right? I'm in charge now. You got to formally report to me. Even though all of the information in this resolution plan of action is in the audit report, always has been. They've got all the information. It's reported to them. They get a copy of the report, the plan of action for the financial statement findings in here. But again, you know, she's the boss, and she can hold you accountable to doing these recordings.
Well, she has a boss too.
Certainly.
Yeah. I'm familiar with reading all his emails on all the audits. We're not the only one that's been set out here. Most of them are, I mean, there's big problems at the state level.
Yeah, that's a fact. You know, and she is succeeding Phil Hopkins. You know, and Phil Hopkins for 3 or 4 decades was the head of the audits division. So his methodology was more to hold us as auditors accountable. You know, he would desk review 10 or 15 of each of our audits. Of the 40 we do, he would go through with a fine-tooth comb and say, okay, your reports are insufficient, you know, these sorts of things need to be addressed.
Yeah, you were pulled on the carpet here a few years ago.
Yeah, and it's similar, right, yeah, very similar. And actually, we've taken some formal action to kind of address that too here in the last, and will be taking more, but I've got that, I'll bring that, address that here in a little bit. But I think the long story short is monthly reporting your budget to actual reports and holding people accountable, you know. The only people that can hold elected officials accountable are the public. So if that means disseminating information that hasn't been in the past and holding people accountable in a public forum, that's the only real recourse that you have, as far as I'm concerned, you know. Does that make sense? I mean, if you're coming, please stop me if I'm
Well, I worked for the city of Arlington for about 6 years, so I'm familiar with Oregon budget law. And I guess in my situation, it was, I would know how things were going towards the end of the year, what areas were getting close, and then it was just a conversation with the public works superintendent saying, you know, you're gonna have to wait till after July 1st to spend your money.
Certainly. I don't disagree. That perfect world, that's how it would work. And the city council would have the authority to hold that public works person responsible for not spending that money. Who's going to tell the sheriff not to buy an automobile?
I would.
You know, he's got a budget, right? I mean, he's got a budget that he can spend that you've approved. You know, there's only so much. I guess there's only so much you can do. I guess
it seems to me that he's a reasonable person, and if we would go to him and tell him that. you're,
I
you
would
know,
disagree.
you have to wait till July
I
1st
would
to
disagree
buy
with
this
that.
automobile.
But for example,
Or you're gonna be breaking the law.
we buy all of our automobiles from Red Chevrolet. It seems to me we could get 3 bids and still buy it, still justify buying it from Red Chevrolet, but continually, that's what 2 of
And
these
is that
other
something,
public contracting
do we need to
violations.
have training on that? Do we need to have training with all the departments to go over again? You know, you have to get 3 quotes if you're gonna spend.
You know, a formal policy would be a place to start.
I think,
And,
yeah.
you know, a formal policy would be the place to start, right? That complies with public contracting law. I think that would be your place to start. I think you're always gonna come back to the same thing though. If the sheriff wants to buy a vehicle or the public works director's that, right? An elected official wants to buy a vehicle for their department and they have the budget to do it, right? There's only so much that you can do to make them be compliant with public contracting law. So there was 4 violations of public contracting law. That might be, and I actually had one of my guys in the office email me what they are, so hopefully he's gotten that done. If you want to know what they are specifically, I can give them to you, I hope. But I think we talked about them last week too on the phone, and so I think we.
I haven't heard about them yet.
Okay, yeah, all right, let me see if I've gotten it yet, I'm sure that I have. So we have procurement for pilot non-construction, $31,600. 2 of those, one's just a road department, I think it was a hauling contract or something along those lines. Potter quarry drilling for just under $50,000. Sheriff's office bought a Jeep, let's see, a 2017 Ram for just under $30,000 and 2016 Chevy Tahoe for just under $40,000.
So
So
we're
those are
talking.
the 4
ro-
exceptions to Oregon public contracting.
So that's road department and the sheriff's office?
Yep, that would be right. And, you know, it does stand to reason they'd be the most common offenders just because they're the most common spending those levels of money that would be required.
Yep.
But again, it's not the first time that we've had the same discussions over the same public contracting issues. So this is the first time this needs to be formally reported, you know, in this resolution format, in this plan of action format, but it's not the first time it's been reported out before.
I guess what my concern is that now we're gonna sign this resolution that says there is a corrective plan of action that's going to take place immediately, and I'm not sure what the plan of action is.
I think that's the discussion that needs to happen. We need to figure- You know, that's what needs to take place. And don't get me wrong, I think that, I still think that there's gonna be, it's gonna be a struggle. You know, I mean, that's basically coming from experience of auditing 4 counties for the last 8 or 10 years, you know, and being involved in 40 or 50 of these audits, that there's always this, you know, I don't know how, I'm trying to be as judicious as possible, because I mean, I know all of these people are nice people, you know, and it's not that, it's our sphere of control, you know, we're elected to do a job, and we all are empowered to do that, and it seems to me that it doesn't seem to me, rightfully so, every elected official takes that very seriously. So anybody trying to tell them how to do it, you know, that's not what the people are telling me, right? I mean, that's not your job to tell me what the people, you know, I'm an elected official. I mean, you know, people elected me for a reason. You know, they trust my judgment, so having anybody kind of trying to hold you accountable for something that you maybe don't think is a major priority for your job, proven to be a struggle. You know, again, anecdotal evidence, I mean, I haven't done the study, a formal study of it, but again, we're required to be accountable to the Secretary of State, so the plan of action has to happen. It doesn't have to read exactly the draft we sent you. Right. I mean, that's a draft, so if it needs to be updated and addressed to, you know, to include the real plan of action we come up with, I think that's the way to go, right? I mean, I don't think, we basically use the boilerplate language that they provide at the Secretary of State to draft them. And most of our clients aren't sophisticated enough to say, we're going to do something extremely different, you know? So I think the county is. I think the county is.
Is there what's the
No,
timeframe?
off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what the time frame is. It just needs to be approved by the court, so I think you have,
For the time.
I don't recall reading the statute, you know, we've talked a lot about in the office before we started drafting these things. I don't recall seeing a drop dead deadline, but I would say that, you know, sooner rather than later, but take the time to do it right. I mean, if you really want to formally adopt a policy to address, this public contracting, and maybe a more detailed process for reviewing the budget in June, and that's really when the problem is, right? I mean, we get to June and forecasting for June, kind of in the next 2 months and what we're gonna have in payables, that's part of it, right? And some, it's gonna happen, some are gonna happen, it's just, I mean, some of them are gonna happen and you're gonna have to spend money on something, you need to spend it, and not gonna have time to do the budget, stuff like that happens.
Well, I guess I'm not as concerned about it being all spelled out in the resolution,
Uh-huh.
but I'm just worried about how we're gonna.
How you're gonna address
do
it, yeah, and I think that's a very valid concern. And again, I'd love to have a copy of whatever policy it is, and we'll, and I'm responsible next year, I'm gonna come and review the same things, so it'll ask what the policy is, we'll kind of evaluate the plan of action and how it's taking place. I mean, I'm responsible for doing that since we formally reported it, so next year when I come and report at the court meeting, I can give you a status update and maybe give you what my idea of how it went.
Yeah. So I really want to clarify a couple of things. I mean,
Okay.
one of the things is the violation of the public contracting rules. So in other words, the sheriff, when he went out and bought those particular vehicles, did not get the other two bids that needed to go along with it, so they could prove out that that was the cheapest vehicles to be able to buy.
Serving
Does
the public.
it even have to be the cheapest, or do you
It
just
has
have to get 3 quotes?
You basically need 3 quotes
You need
and then
3
have
quotes.
some kind of reasonable justification.
As to
Honestly,
why.
a local vendor is,
Is it
I'm
good-
not
is it
gonna
good
write you
reason?
up if you
So-
pick a local vendor as your
Right.
best.
So really all he has to do is contact 2 other places and that's it?
Exactly. Actually, I explained it to him, Leanne has explained it to him. Just go online, find something online, that's similar.
You really,
Print it off,
somebody, right? You
yeah,
know somebody, and
That's-
so a lot of the times, some of the, like a lot of the road department stuff, you're not gonna find anybody that's willing to come over here for some of these smaller jobs, right? You're gonna have the same people that do it all the time, but really, you just have to document, you call 2 other people. I mean, that's the threshold, right? If it's below 100, I believe it's 150. Don't quote me on that one off the top of my head, but anything over that's kind of this smaller procurement, you just need to have 3 bids or 3 quotes. You don't necessarily need to have the formal public process of
Right.
advertising, and, it doesn't stop you from doing that if you want to, spread the scope of your bidding wider. But really, you just need to justify that this isn't, I guess, maybe harmful for the public good, right? I mean, that's really, you're protecting the public good by having the requirement to have these multiple quotes. Making sure that we're not, recklessly spending money, or spending in excess of we need to. So, the threshold for documentation is pretty low. It really isn't a lot to do. Your handwritten notes of what the quotes are sufficient. So really, it takes 2 extra phone calls. It's really what it takes. So,
Yeah. So and then Pilot Knob, which has been the road department, the road department has worked with Pilot Knob for, I don't know how many years to do the blasting for any one of their, but we still have to go through the process.
So there's
of checking
context.
the 2 other
And
people.
there's some more formal action that you could look into, and I would call it your legal counsel. If you wanted to say make Pilot Knob the long-term, there's nothing you can do that, formally. But it takes some court action to do that, and I think there's a reason for that, right? It's just the transparency of it needs to happen before we can say, hey, this is the vendor we're going to use. I'd like to put in context too. I don't have any suspicion that these aren't the best prices you're going to get, right? That's not what we're reporting, right? We're reporting on documentation. So when we're auditing, there's not a piece of paper or electronic record of something happening. It didn't happen as far as we're concerned, rightfully, conservatively so. So I don't want to, not trying to point any fingers or insinuate anything, because really, these are all honest intents, the intents are all honest. There's nothing shady as far as we're concerned. It's just a matter of making the documentation available when we come ask for it.
Different way of doing business that some of us haven't been used to doing.
Oh, yeah, certainly so, yeah, and it's a big change coming.
May not, it doesn't look as efficient.
And it isn't, and
Takes
that's the whole
longer.
point, right? That's the whole point of bureaucracy, is we're not as efficient, so,
Yeah.
the power isn't vested in any one of us in that regard, so. It makes
So,
sense.
yeah.
It's a pain, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't argue that it's not.
Yeah.
So just kind of, clarify some of the over expenditures. I really didn't, there was one, the Wheat Lab Personal Services, that was, we paid out workman's comp for an employee that isn't even there, not really sure why that ended up happening. Once it did happen, the abilities to be able to pull back couldn't be done. I
So-
think some of these,
Any of these things, just so everybody's on the same page,
Yeah,
any
it's
of
not-
these can't be addressed before the end of June. In any year, right, we can do a resolution at the
Resolution.
court level to move our appropriations to address them. So there are actions that can take place. The budget, we can change the budget, all the way up until June 30th at 11:59, as long as the court can get together at a public forum and do it, we can change the budget. So I think the long and short of it is that your guys' responsibility, when you get these budget to action reports, is to ask the questions, okay, we only got 3% of our budget left in personal services in the road department. What are we gonna do to address this? I know we've got another month of payroll to do. Those are the things that, as the governing body, holding people accountable, those are the questions to ask,
And that
right?
brings up a question for me. When you're talking about going over personal services for the wheat lab, if we, and this was something that we discussed a little bit last year too, but if our resolution to categorize the taxes, make the appropriations, adopt the budget, if it was less, I know over the last few years, they've changed it, so you don't have to be quite so descriptive, you don't have to put it in materials and services and personal
Right.
services, you can just
You
have
can do it
lumps.
functional programs, right? is kind of how
Right,
you
so
do it.
that would give us a lot more flexibility, so we wouldn't go over in personal services if there was enough money in that whole category of,
In the general fund, that is generally right. Any fund you're gonna have multiple departments in, that's right. You can budget about programs. So, sheriff's office is one program in the general fund. You do have to provide more detail than just say, let's say for the wheat lab, if we have our own separate budget for the wheat lab, you can't just budget the wheat lab as a fund, wheat lab. We have to provide more detail than that.
you have to say materials and services and personal services?
It's either object or functional classification, so it would either be, object would be kind of program, right? Functional would be the nature of the expense, so that would be personal service, material and services, capital outlay.
So, but they could be lumped into,
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you from getting, combining some of those special revenue funds into one special revenue fund and then, budgeting departments. And then you could do the 30,000-foot budget instead of the 2-foot or, however you want to look at it. But when we get, when we get into the course of doing the budget, I'm assuming that the process is well underway, right, Nathan?
Started.
If anything comes
It's
up,
mine.
we're available throughout, we're not here just for a week during the year to do our testing and then go, we're always available for questions. So again, I put my information on the front of those presentations to make sure that, the people that are hiring need to get a hold of me too. So don't hesitate if you have questions throughout the budget process, or you want input or maybe a little feedback on an idea, we're more than happy to give you our opinion on it. Not necessarily law, factual law, there's some instances where I'm gonna say, hey, this is what I think, maybe you're gonna want to consult legal counsel because I'm not a lawyer, and I don't practice law, but this is kind of our scope of work on a daily basis, is this minimum standard stuff, so compliance is a big part of what we deal with on every audit, so.
I got a pretty good idea on this road department on the reserves and special payments, because there's some funds that are interchangeable.
And yeah, unfortunately, the classification matters, right? It does matter, and
that's where,
a lot of the times, I feel like a real nitpicker. Because functionally speaking, there's nobody that cares about some of these things but me, right? Because it's my job to care about it. But that doesn't absolve me from the requirement to report it either. So a lot of these things have a lot of context to them, there's no leeway for me to say, what happened was, well, we had a roof collapse in June from excessive rain, we had to replace that roof and it wasn't in the budget, right? I can't add that to the audit report anywhere. There's no leeway for me to do that. So this forum is kind of the forum for me to give you the nuance, and to give you the opportunity to ask any questions that might be. Okay, so and again, always, if you want to drop me a line or call the office, we're more than happy, throughout the year to answer your questions or address any concerns, or you have thoughts or any ideas, crazy ideas. We're more than happy to get entertained. The more crazy, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Anything outside the ordinary is interesting. So Okay, well, I think I got a little bogged down here. Let me get us back on track here. So that's kind of the comments and disclosures report for Oregon. And then really, like I said, that's compliance issues that we have in that, part that we can address. You'll find on 107 and 108, there's a formal report on compliance and internal control. Again, there's two compliance findings. It's the non-compliance with public procurement standards and local budget law, and then the inability to prepare GAAP financial statements. So those are really the three findings. Public contracting and local budget law, I think we addressed. The other one takes significant cost or training to address the inability to prepare financial statements. So the final formal communication that we have is the SAS 114 letter. So it's a letter that's addressed to you, the court, from us, the auditors. Basically, we're telling you that in dealing with management, in this case would be Nathan Allen, we have any issues. If you had any problems with lacking information that we requested, it would be communicated in that letter. If we had any concerns about management integrity or any of the representations they made to us in the management representation letter, those sorts of things would be reported here. I can assure you, if you read through it, there's nothing in there that's a negative mark. All those are positive assurances that we're dealing with management, we have no issues. So it's gotten better, over a number of years here. We've had some turnover in some key positions that's been a hurdle. In the last couple of years, we've had a little more continuity. It's better on our end when we have the same people we can work with on. At least some of the same people from the area to work with. So, kind of closing here, we really appreciate having the opportunity to county's audit. We are your larger expenses, as far as the general fund expense, we know that. We try to make ourselves available and provide more value than just this report we draft. As far as in-house at our office, we're kind of in the process of some serious change. Historically, we've been attached to the office in Burns. Oster Professional Group's kind of been a two-office firm. As Mr. Weimer alluded to earlier, we had some issues with our last peer review, 2 peer reviews ago. That kind of started us evaluating what we wanted to do as a firm, if it still made sense to be attached. The issues basically stemmed from doing things 2 different ways in 2 different offices and being held to the same standard. As an audit firm, you have to have a quality control document that you basically outline how you do things. Independent audit firm comes and looks at your audit reports, looks at the documentation, all your evidence that you have accumulated, and kind of audits your audits, right? It basically gives an opinion to the state board on how you do. Not the last one, we had one before, we had some issues. We addressed them, the last one's clean, we haven't passed with no deficiencies, which is the first time we had one of those. Usually you have some reporting issues that maybe you didn't get your standard templates updated for all of the changes from one year to the next in the audit report. This year we were very diligent after having problems with the one before. So long story short, we're in the process of formally separating. We won't be attached to the Burns office. They have signed a contract to sell the name, so we won't be Oster Professional Group. We will be OPG CPA PC, which is really our, I know it's not necessarily straightforward, but right now we basically are 2 separate entities that own a partnership. They're members of a partnership. So the partnership's basically just going to go away. And we'll name ourselves something different, and there's been all kinds of crazy names thrown out coming up, a lot of them not very exciting because we're CPAs, but it might be, I think right now, solutions is the word we're going to key on. So it'll be something along those lines. It might be solutions professional group or accounting group or CPAs, but assure you it's the same people, Oster and John Day. You won't have any personnel turnover. Really, it's the longtime managing partners are both working on retiring. So that's really the motivation for us to do this, is that the rest of us are kind of wanting to do our own things. And John Day office has become more auditors, and the Burns office are more bookkeepers. So we kind of don't have the same core competence anymore. So if you hear about Oster after January 1st of 2018, they're not talking about us. They're talking about the Burns office. But I don't think their influence in this area is strong. I know they don't have any audits in this area. I don't even think they really have any business at all. But anyway. So just as a heads up, we're also working on our contracts and engagement letters. I'm not sure exactly where they're at, because I just got back to the office from Demolition yesterday, so I think they're dangerously close to going in the mail here in the next week or so. So we'll try to have those out available for the budget process.
And so usually we receive an engagement letter and also contract letters, of which we end up with 2 of them, one to perform the financial report for us, and then one to perform the audit.
Well,
Right, so
It's,
They're
the
separate.
engagement letter, basically outlines all requirements of the audit for us, for you, and also outlines the terms of the financial statement preparation. The contract is basically a requirement of the Secretary of State. We have to send a copy to them. Otherwise, we would only have the engagement letter if we didn't have an obscure standard or it requires a contract be filed with the Secretary of State. So, basically covering the same information, contract only related to the audit, but the engagement letter covers the whole agreement, including the financial statement prep.
Okay.
And then there's $2 figures getting put in there too.
Yeah, one specifically related to the audit, the other one is the fee for preparing the financial statement. So we are required to quote those separately, because we have to maintain our independence and be very above board and transparent with that service we provide. So I would call it as a non-attest service. So what I end up doing is spending about three hours on every audit, making sure our documentation's in order to be able to do those financial statements before we do anything on it. So lots of I's and T's to take care of when it comes to doing the audit business for sure.
Okay, plan of action. Nathan, you want to, I think it's really important for us to discuss, some of the things, as far as the over expenditures and some of those that we discussed. What we're basically going to be doing is telling the Secretary of State that that's not going to happen anymore. No.
Watch your budget workload, so it's
Yeah,
that simple.
yes.
I give you a revenue expense report, and you just,
Fairly simple answer, right?
well,
Yeah.
missed it.
Yeah,
That's all there is to it.
In all honesty, I went back and looked at our June 30th, expense report that we had, and it didn't show the health.
Some of them,
Yeah,
Some of
many
these
of these
relates
didn't
to,
show.
a
Some of them did, but
Some are,
yeah.
well, and some of them are timing issues, right? Because
Yeah.
you got the 60 days after June 30th, so if somebody was holding on to a bill, it wouldn't show up in the cash report, but if they put it in, say, July, the end of July AP, it'd get bumped back. So you're not,
So you got to.
I feel it's very hard to catch all of them, but.
Yeah, it is.
How do we train, I guess, our different departments or educate them a little bit more on how this works?
I think you mentioned policy. I think being very transparent, making sure everybody has a policy that outlines what you can and can't do. I don't know, again, there's some fundamental limitations on how you're going to be able to hold everyone accountable for some of these things. I think the local budget law one is a little easier, only because all the information's out there. You kind of know. The only problem you're going to have there is any department head, like Nathan said, they gotta know what they're gonna have coming up in the next, what they've incurred that month that's gonna be billed coming up, right? That's really the hard forecasting issue with local budget law, is that it's not necessarily where you're at June 15th all the time. People gotta know what they've ordered, for example, that's gonna need to be paid out of this year's budget. And that's where a lot of this is that there's no consideration for that part of it. Training, again, is always is going to be a necessity, but I don't think it's a lack of knowledge. I don't know that it's necessarily a lack of knowledge. I think it's hard for one, to forecast some of these things if you're not an accountant. But maybe a process, maybe I don't know, we've seen forms, like requisition forms, they're only get used in June, where we're kind of keeping track of the things we ordered that we're going to be billed for in July and August. We get accounted for, when we go to look at our budget to actuals in June only, it's only kind of irrelevant, right? And then making sure that we take some formal action at a court meeting to adjust our budget sufficiently. All it takes is a resolution to move it, say, from a contingency up the line to avoid, all of those for the most part. There might have been a couple that wasn't going to be the case for, that we didn't have that ability, but.
Well, in looking at what we have here and some of the stuff that's in the report, if you went to the expense report that comes to us every month, many of these would even been noticed on June 15th that they were going to be an issue. The one, probably, Nathan, I would have to say the workman's comp thing.
Yeah, that would have been.
You know, that one would have been noticed. It was noticed, yeah, you know, but we react to it. The other ones, I have to be perfectly honest, you know, and the person that looked at the expense report on a, you know, monthly basis and going through the APs, these, they were not noticeable. I mean, you did not see them, to be perfectly honest.
And most of them aren't very large, right? I mean,
Yeah,
most of
yeah.
them are relatively small.
I mean, I'm not trying to go in defense of me or
No,
Nathan
yeah.
or anybody else. It just was one of the,
It's the nature of forecasting.
It's the
right? I mean,
nature of
that's-
it, yeah, it's there,
It's
so.
part of the reason that you know, that people with my skills are in demand, you know, is
Yeah.
that this is, it's not easy to say, to be diligent enough, I guess, is really to be, there's better words for it, but, you know, not maybe for this one, but, it's hard to be that diligent in every line item, in 100 funds or 50 funds.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
to be perfectly honest with you, what it boils down to, and I'll give you you know, the way I end up having to deal with these kind of things. I may have, I'm working off an expense report from December 31st, and I'm dealing with
Well,
an
it's-
AP for,
It's always like
Yeah,
6
yeah,
weeks
well,
behind
yeah,
because
that's
the bank
right.
statements don't come in.
yeah, I mean, you know, I go on roughly a month and a half behind on all those, and I have to have 2 AP reports prior to the one that I'm working on. So I take a line item and say, okay, there's, and it's, I've thrown an example, my travel, it's not an expense report, but meetings and travel that I have. And so what I do is I take the previous 2 APs, add it to this one, and then that's what I, you know, subtract out of what's there, and making sure that I'm staying within the budget area. So I've got 3 APs that I'm looking at the same time.
Kind of the
to be able to
nature
match
of
it.
your,
Yeah, so it's-
general ledger is basically on a cash
and I
basis
just,
on
I
any
hate
regular.
the, yeah, I hate the thought whenever it's the first of the month and I have
Because
these.
the other real, I mean, one thing that the county can do is we can adopt our budget on a cash basis. You know, you wouldn't be the only county in Oregon that basically adopts a cash basis as you form the budget basis, and that would require us to test your budget on a cash basis, and it would make that tracking more simple. And really, you'd be kind of, you'd be putting the burden on us too, because basically it's just going to be adjusting the financial statements to reflect those as cash basis and not modified accrual.
The other aspect, in my opinion, would be the accounting software that we have. It's very, very complicated software to be able to get in and check a line item to determine where it is from the previous
Kind
month.
of a bureaucracy in itself.
Yeah, it's all green screen and, you know, yeah, so.
Any color you want, as long as it's 2 colors.
Yeah.
No black problem.
Nathan likes it, so, see, you know, yeah. Anyway.
There's some very positive things about the software you use, and just like me, there's some limitations.
Yeah.
Really, the good thing you have is that even kind of local company, and they are long-term.
They've been around.
A lot of these governmental accounting softwares have come and gone over the years, surprisingly. You know, you think that you sell $40,000 software and you'd be a relatively established company, but that's not necessarily the case. We've seen quite a few come and go. So, one thing about Shabs is they're located in Baker. You know, they have a relatively local team, and they're pretty responsive for the most part too. Not the most technologically advanced platform.
Yeah,
But
right.
you know, it's just like any accounting software as far as I'm concerned. If your information you're putting in is good, the information that comes out of it is good. For the most part. But some limitations to that, but for the most part, that's the case for most of these software.
Okay. So a couple of things, you know, I guess we approve sending the letter off to the Secretary of State's office based on what's been written here, and then also.
What's the letter?
It's the one that basically, it's a plan of action for Gilliam County.
Will you send that to them? I thought we just had to pass the resolution.
And the resolutions for you, they want a
What's the statement?
the formal communication for your plan of action, yeah.
Right.
So the only thing different between what's in here and the audit report and the plan of action we have in the audit report is they add the minimum standards findings.
They what?
They add the findings, public contract and local budget law findings. So we don't have to do that formal plan of action in the audit report itself for those 2 findings, but we do for the financial statement findings. So you'll find that the first one, number 1, is going to be exactly the same as the finding that we have on, I believe it was 1 of the findings. 101, so this one is exactly the same. We've always had to have a plan of action, and really, it's just not, it's not cost effective for the county to hire somebody.
That's the broken record.
Right, that's the
Yeah.
broken record one, that's right.
Well,
So the only difference this year is that we had to formally communicate to the Secretary of State now these other two ones related to budget law and public contract.
Okay, thank you.
And it's always been there, you know, again,
It's always been-
it's always been a statute on the books, it's one that I had never read myself until we got a letter, not a letter, but they sent kind of their newsletter. The Secretary of State, Audit Division's newsletter had this reference in it, and that's kind of what got us started. So we communicated and verified that it was required, that she was asking for this to formally be sent on top of the report. So, yeah, first time it's ever been really enforced, but it's always been on the books.
This letter, though, is dated December 7th. What's the story on that?
It's probably when the audit was finalized, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think it probably was. I don't think we received any of this until
That's probably right, yeah,
first part of
that's
January
probably
or something.
Yeah.
Well, there was
That's-
Christmas holiday there, and I was ill and gone for a week. And that was when all the audit reports kind of came.
Our timing for
More than likely, you didn't get it in January.
Yeah, I think it was maybe, yeah, it was like around
I
things.
mean, they mailed it to us, priority, so.
But this letter is on Gilliam County letterhead, so it was,
No, they.
We have a copy, yeah, we have a
Yeah.
copy of your letterheads. We do the same thing, we send attorney letters
Okay.
to legal counsel that comes, that basically we draft them, Judge Schaffer signs them and.
Schaefer, but that's-
Schaefer,
yeah, you're all right.
Schaefer signs them and then we send them to the attorneys to respond to us. So it's not, yeah, we actually draft a number of letters with your letterhead. I don't send any without any signatures, I assure you, but we do draft them related, a handful of letters related to the audit and the letterhead.
I just felt like we needed this sooner, you know, because there was a problem here that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
And I'm not even gonna give you the reason that happened because it's irrelevant. I don't disagree. We need it sooner and
Okay.
next year it will be sooner because we're all.
So we just scratched the date.
Yeah, and that's basically, mine's dated October 3rd, because that's probably when we had our draft done on our end, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean it got sent to you at that point in time. That's probably when I got done with the field work. We were working on putting the financial statements together, so, yeah, I mean, that's basically the last formal communication, I think.
Right, yeah. So I believe it was back in September, which is the outgoing report that we got from Mitch Saul. This was sent out to you guys and.
That's so long back.
Yeah, that's.
I know. It's-
Yeah.
I think you guys left it was 1st of September?
Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah.
We were here for
So-
the weekend, right?
Right.
So we're kind of, being here is a little bit, I don't want to say, it's not really dependent on the financial statements getting done directly. Don't get me wrong, we try to get them out as fast as we can, but various things come up.
So to get us back in some kind of better standing, I move we approve the resolution number 2018-03 in the matter of setting forth proposed plan of action pertaining to the deficiencies noted in the annual audit report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2018-03, a proposed plan of action on the audit report deficiencies. Secretary of State, did you say? Yeah. Any further discussion with this? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, do we need to approve the letter to them also?
I think the resolution.
You know, okay, the resolution should speak in behalf of the
Yeah, I mean, you.
plan of action.
Suppose you could approve the
Okay.
formal communication to the state, but I
Okay.
don't know that it's necessary.
Looks to me like we got our hands tied. We've got to do it.
Well, yeah, it doesn't, it's.
And they provided us with a good letter.
Yeah.
Well, we try to, so,
Yeah.
just so we're, make
No, no,
sure, don't
yeah.
send it until you read it, right? That's
Yeah,
the-
I
We draft everything that we do based on, I make it as generic as
Yeah.
possible for all
Yeah.
of those things.
Yeah,
for
did you
reasons
see the
for community.
spelling mistake in there?
No. It's not. Is it your name? Those all get proofread and not by me, because I'm no grammar or spelling expert.
I'm not going to say that we got our hands tied, because really, I think this, in my time here, I think this is one of the better audits that we've actually had.
As far as performing the audit.
Yeah.
And things we think that could have been improved, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Processes we're using are a lot more sound,
So-
a lot more followed than they did in the past.
Yeah, I just think that the approach that the Secretary of State has asked for and the responses that we have to have, the level was increased on that, and consequently, that's why I thought it was really important to be able to have you
Yep,
come
no,
here and talk
I'm
about
happy
this.
to come every
I don't
year.
think any of the things that we were talking about today were, 2 years ago, when both you and Bob showed up in Arlington, it was very, very similar at that time. Actually, it was much worse than it is right now, so, I want to make sure that you guys understand that some of these things are just things that you just don't have any way of controlling.
Or it's harder.
It's harder.
Struggle, yeah.
Much more difficult.
I don't want to say impossible.
Yeah,
but it's,
impossible, but
real.
I agree. Yeah, anyway, that might be.
We got lots of money, we could have just increased the budget at the end of the year to cover these.
Well, yeah, but
Just
you
give
have
them
to
some
know,
cushion.
that's
For
the
a long
problem.
run.
That was the problem, you have to know before the end of the year to be able to do the resolution that these things have come up. And I don't think any of these things were really aware, that we were aware of, other than the one thing at the wheat lab. Don't you think, Nathan? I mean, otherwise, I think we'd have made some.
Howard just fixed it, I mean, it's.
Yeah, we'd have fixed it. Okay,
Oh,
all right,
we fixed
thanks,
some-
Mitch.
we fixed some today.
Thank you very much for being here. I'm running a little bit behind now, so I got,
I do know. I'll have to get it for you. And I can wait till you look at my presentation.
I think there's something in there. Yeah. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Well, the next one we've got, we're here, we probably, Joe, going to have to waste about 5 minutes to make sure we don't have anybody come in and protest. Ours was due at noon, so I'll let you come on up and get started. Yeah, we could, yes. Yes. Quick break?
Sure.
Okay. While we're here,
I'm here for you
I'm going to
guys.
do real quickly with some introductions. I'm looking out at the audience. We've got Reuben Cleveland with the Wills firm. He's the individual who's come here to kind of help us with some of the things that, and to his left is Jim Deason out here. He come to Oregon.
The face behind the voice.
Yeah, so, anyway, thank you guys for coming. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll get started with you. Let's go ahead and call this meeting back to order, and after a short little recess, the next order of business that we've got Joe Franell. They award the bid of the dark fiber indefeasible right of use and maintenance services. Our window for somebody to protest, I believe ended about 30 seconds ago. So I think we're okay to
This is
award.
where the
Yeah.
ball drops, the balloons fly, and the confetti
So,
falls from the
yeah,
sky.
I think, and Reuben, to make sure that I do this correctly, we did a notice of intent to award, and that notification ends, I think, at noon time today.
correct.
So I guess now our next action would be to actually award to. Inland.
We're really close to having the actual documents done. So we've met with Inland twice. We went through their response and drafted documents, ran those by them. There were some questions, obviously, that we needed to answer from their RFP response. We got those answered, and we think we will have a final draft of the documents maybe as early as this afternoon that we can present to Inland. We've got a couple of small specifics that we still need to get. Physical addresses for the endpoints. I mean, they've given us where the endpoints are, but we need either a physical address or a lat-lon to put into the latitude, longitude to put into the actual documents, the IRU and the maintenance agreement. So we expect we'll have all of that done this afternoon. Mr. Deason's been working on that with me, and we'll have a final up with final follow-up. Excuse me. And you're recording this. And by the way, so when you take photos and you run them through Photoshop and you can get rid of the red eye, you just click a button. Is there a function for bald spots? So I didn't catch that we were videotaping this thing when I was here last, and Jim Deason actually sent me the link on YouTube. I don't look at the back. We should work on that. So we expect that we'll have those final documents done today. We'll run those by Inland. We think that we'll get that finalized this week. The only thing that might slow us down is because of Will's memorial service, Jim Deason flew over from Atlanta, so there's some travel that may interrupt or slow us down by a day. And I'm traveling back to Hermiston. I think you're all aware that I've been in and out of the office over the last couple of weeks. So we expect to get that done, and it probably would be best if we get those final documents and bring them back to you for review and approval, and then you just approve the whole thing. We're done.
Okay.
So I don't know that we necessarily need an action today, but I'll defer to council.
No.
Which is always wise, to defer to council.
I think we're at a stage where we just get the documents.
Right. So, it's all but done. I don't think there's anything substantive that we have to worry about in the final documents. Like I said, we've agreed on all of the big issues and even most of the very, very small issues in the documents. So I think we're just tying up loose ends on the documents. We'll have those ready for your review at the latest, I would think early next week, and then you could approve or execute the documents next week. And we could just move forward and get some dirt flying.
Okay. Any questions for
That
Joe?
sounds like a special meeting.
It does sound like a special meeting.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does sound like a special
Maybe we could
meeting.
add job descriptions to that.
Yeah, we could add job descriptions.
So Condon and Arlington, Condon and Arlington.
Yeah.
Condon and the county, it's all been decided on who's paying what and how many pairs of fibers go where.
After our last meeting, the judge and I had lunch with the city's designated representative, and there's out of that is a new IGA which details the agreement. So I think we have an agreement in principle on all of that. That of course, as soon as we get done with this, then we'll run that by the city. But I think it's what we've all agreed on. So I don't think there's any open items there either.
I thought it was covered in the minutes.
Yeah,
It was.
when I read the minutes though, I looked at it and I went, is that what was said? Because I was confused. It said something about it was discussed, 12 pairs was discussed, but more than that wasn't discussed.
And the cost would be split evenly
Right.
is what was reported.
If I could maybe give a little detail, at least tell you how I'm working on the draft agreement. With the number of pairs doesn't affect the non-recurring costs. That's the same, no matter what the pair. The number of pairs affects the monthly recurring costs for ongoing
Correct.
O&M. So since the non-recurring cost is the same, but regardless, and the city and county have an agreement with Councilor Jamison and Judge Schaefer and Joe, then I drafted the agreement to reflect that non-recurring. With respect to the monthly recurring, I've just drafted it with respect to it. It will ultimately it will leave the city free to take more fiber if they want. And I've drafted it with respect to what I understood the county wanted, which was the 6 pair. But if the county decides, if y'all as a governing body decide you want more, then we just adjust that. It just basically says, with respect to the MRC, the original IGA and the new one, will basically say everybody pays their own freight depending on how many pairs that they take. So it doesn't preclude that decision. So.
I guess what I would like clarified, what the city's going to clarify tonight at City Council is the amount of money that Donald and Joe and Steve Schaefer agreed upon. And I guess I would like that to be made a note, that the county knows their amount. I mean, our amount is about $618,000, so on the non-reoccurring costs. So I guess what I would like to see is both commissioners know what their non-reoccurring cost portion is, knowing that the monthly reoccurring cost is going to be based on how many fibers each entity takes. Does that make sense?
It'd be nice, I don't know, I kind of have I know what was agreed upon before, and then I know that we've split the additional amount, but I don't know what the figure came out with.
Do you have that number?
I'm trying to find it on my phone. The non-recurring cost for inland is about it's $1,900,000, I want to say $907,000. I'll get the exact number. And then the county's cost is less. I think it was 618 or 600.
No, our total was $480,000, Yours was 1.5, and then we were splitting the 207,
Right.
277,000.
Exactly. So it comes up roughly to about 1.2 million and change for the county. If you give me a minute, I'll find it on my phone. That's what's in the draft agreement I've done, which to reflect that.
Yeah.
But it was 1.15 and 480. And then we're splitting the difference between those two numbers and the total NRC in the inland bid, which was 1907, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Give me 1 minute, I'll get back to you.
I guess we would just like to make sure that the whole county court is, just like what the council's gonna be with okay tonight, is okay on the contribution of the non-reoccurring cost. What our contribution to be and what the county's contribution.
You got the math, Judge?
I'm working on it.
I saw you working on it.
I'm sorry, I left everything out in the car. I can be right back if that's easier, just to make 100% sure.
And normally I would have that, but I apologize.
Okay, so 133. So roughly our contribution is going to be this one.
Forget to carry the.
Yeah,
whatever it
I
is.
did.
Here we go.
So 277,000 split in half, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, 1,300,000 and, let's say $1,390,000.
I don't think it's that. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Judge.
387,000. I have my computer here, it's all on that. Laptop, iPad.
Here we go.
Got it, Jim?
I will in just 1 second here.
Okay. I'm headed there if you can't.
Okay. I can tell you the counties, what's in the draft contracts.
Okay.
It is, here we go. The county's non-recurring charge is $1,288,839.50. That reflects the 1.15 million plus half of the difference that the total combined city and county commitment under the November 2017 IGA is less than the $1.9 million that in our payment. So again, I'm sorry I don't have the cities, but ours with half of that is $1,288,839.50.
Thank you. Is that what you needed?
That covers it. Okay, and for that $1,288,839.50, we have 6 pair of fiber.
Yes.
And which will be finalized when we do the lease agreement and the maintenance contract.
Yes. Now, if the court decides they want more of that fiber,
We can put that in.
that number remains the same, but the monthly recurring would increase.
Right.
Correct. Right now, we have a figure, in our draft contracts, we have a figure of, oh, I just lost it, it's $1,750 per month for 6 pairs of fibers.
Right.
And that number goes up if you take more than 6 pairs. Actually, it goes up by incremental because of the extra $500 to get more than 12 pairs.
Sounds good. Okay. So I think where we're at with this is we'll probably end up with a special meeting to be able to approve the contracts and move forward. But at this particular time, we have moved from a notice of intent to award to the fact that this is now awarded to Inland Development.
We can't do that today.
I would wait until you get the final documents, then you can approve the final, otherwise you'll award it and then you'll have to come back and approve the final documents.
Oh, I guess I thought, what's going to be ready this afternoon?
Our response back to Inland, we got additional details on the endpoints, as well as we've been working out exactly what are called the milestones, the 5 stages at which the 1.9 million would be paid out. And because part of the RFP response, Inland's RFP was they accepted project milestones, not paying the 1.97 million immediately. They said we'll spread that over in 5 stages. So what we've been trying to do is work out what those 5 stages are. And not to bore you with details, but some of the stuff is materials and mobilization fees, which don't actually have to do with construction or construction prep, come up front. And then they're actually, they're not really 5 separate segments, they're 3 construction segments. We're trying to break down the money so that when they complete a segment, the county and the city can have their person verify that that segment is complete, ready to go, before the money is released for the next one, as a risk mitigation factor.
Okay,
And
I'm
so-
sorry, I thought we were closer.
And we've agreed on all of that
Yes.
with Inland, and we've got it in this final draft. We just need him to review it, make sure that he agrees this is what we agreed on. And then once he gives us that's why we think we're literally that close. Is we've got these final documents, we've worked out all these details, he just hasn't had a chance to do the final review. So we'll get those to him hopefully this afternoon.
Well,
I'm going to be here next Wednesday, in case that helps.
Okay.
I would also like to add too, I mean, we've been working on this, but I would recommend before the county approve and lock in that sort of segmentation, that we make sure it's acceptable to the city, since they'll be paying their part of it as well. We've been rushing basically to get what we thought would be contracts acceptable to the county, but obviously there are 2 sets of contracts that are being done separately, but they're both contingent on the other set being done. So what I was hoping to do is get a draft back to Inland this afternoon, or maybe first I'd like Joe to have a chance, and he's on the road, but nothing else, at the latest in the morning. And then once we have what we believe is acceptable to the county and Inland, make sure that the city has a chance to review it, it's okay with them before we ask for final approval. Because we're all in this together, even though we're kind of separate in a certain aspect.
Okay? Good? Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience. I know I haven't been as available for the last couple of weeks, but
In my opinion, you've been a champion under the circumstances.
you guys have been very gracious, so thank you. And I'm excited. I mean, today is a big milestone for both the city and the county.
Absolutely.
So now we just got to get this thing moving. So
Yep.
it's close.
We got to start digging.
Yeah. So congratulations.
Yeah.
To all of you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe.
Those don't look like cowboy boots today.
No, sir. Maybe that's why I'm a little off my game.
Yeah.
Are you on your way back? Okay.
Yeah.
Frankie out in the car?
She's actually out in the
Right there,
hallway.
okay.
Yeah, I brought my bodyguard.
Her and I are on the same page.
Okay.
And if no other questions for me, I'm going to go get to work on some.
Okay. Thanks, Jim, very much. Okay, now, we've got some guests here, a little discussion with Thompson. Brad?
Yes.
Okay, kind of assumed. Looks like you brought some people with you.
Yeah, a couple of mine.
Why don't we go ahead and come on up? I'll see if maybe we can bring a chair down for all 3 of you to sit here at the table.
My golly, there we go.
Car. Few conversations on the phone.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Yeah. One more. Steve. Good to meet you, Justin. Yeah.
This is my son, and this is...
Yeah. All right. All right. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
doing after this appointment, or?
I think, I'm not sure how long this will take. We'll do what we can. We're going to try and work through a lunch today. So we've got Kevin. I didn't catch your last name.
Griffey.
Okay, Griffey. Brad Thompson with Thompson's Construction. Brad's son, Justin. We're here to talk about the concrete batch plan that Darryl County has. And, you and I have had a few conversations over the phone. Initially, one of the things that we talked about was actually Thompson Construction purchasing everything that was there. The process that we had to go through, I don't think would have even come close to fitting the timeline that you were looking at. So consequently, what we kind of turned that conversation over into a lease. At that particular time, I sort of turned everything over to Commissioner Weatherall. I guess we're all kind of at that particular point. There was some documentation that I sent out to you that had, the cost of what we had paid for this equipment, and we haven't had an appraisal on any of it. Anyway, you saw a contract that we had with WI Construction, a lease agreement. What thoughts? Okay, your proposal, what are you guys thinking about that?
Yeah, that looks great.
Okay.
If you come up with something that, in the same lines as what they've got there. I've contacted.
You might move that microphone just a little bit closer and really speak loud, Brad.
Okay.
Here.
So I've contacted somebody to show us how to operate it and kind of give us some history on it, which is Gene.
Okay.
I've got a couple different people that are willing to do it. But yeah, still purchasing it is not out of the question. If in the future you guys want to sell it and figure out how or get an appraisal, put a value on it. But leasing it is definitely the best option for getting going right away. I've got a project here in Fossil, 2 projects in Fossil, and one in Arlington. Require a lot of concrete. So, that's where we're at. It's just looking for the concrete source. The reason we're looking here is because it's the closest source to get the concrete there on time to meet ODOT and Bonneville Power specs. You only got so much time once you batch the concrete to get it to the site. So Hood River Sand Gravel and the Dallas concrete was out of the question. Either had to get something mixed on site or this option here works out great for us.
Okay, I guess one of my concerns that you and I had kind of talked about previously was the experience in having somebody who's able to, concrete isn't, there are specs that are required with many of these, and so I'm hearing about Gene, that's kind of a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, plans, there are no trucks there,
That's right, we'll provide our own trucks.
Okay.
You bet. And stop by and look at the site one more time on the way here. Everything looks, everything's in order. We don't know the condition if anything's frozen or anything like that. But Gene is willing to dig in there and see what we got to work with.
Where are you guys at with this? This is really, this flew very fast. Very fast. I think Brad and I talked sometime the first part of January, but didn't really, I think you were looking more for a source.
Yep.
And was wondering who was operating that. And I said, well, nobody, which I think your comment to me was, well, now you've got my gears turning just a little bit.
That's right. So since then, I've checked out all options that I could, and none of them were as good as this option here.
Mm-hmm.
I went down to Vegas, just so I happened right the same week, we had the World of Concrete, so I was open to anything that the people had to offer. And the only really other option that was even close was bringing in a portable truck that does not make sense. A lot of the state jobs don't like to see you show up with those trucks. So this worked out great.
Okay, I guess, when do you want to start? If we go ahead and agree, what's the start date you're looking
We
at?
would like to, our original schedule, probably kind of keep somewhere around the contract. So we're thinking that really to be reasonable, or realistic, March 1st. We'd like to be batching concrete and hauling it if possible. 3 weeks.
I ask you a question?
Sure.
So the fact that we went out with this RFP middle of last year to try to lease this batch plant, got no responses. Are we all right at this point in time just to enter into an agreement?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, is that typically with a direct procurement, and if you're doing it as a sole source, or you're saying this is the only source we have to take on this project, we do have to have some findings. So I just need to make sure that we can wrap in that non-response to the RFP as our findings, that there's only one outfit that's a good fit. So I just need to verify with their rules that we have what findings we need to make and go from there. And it might be that we can't. I'm not making any promises, but I have to look at our contracting rules and see if all the pegs fit together, and we'll let us know.
So can I ask a question? So I thought your question was more directed at, is it necessary to get any proposals, or do we have to go sole source because we did the RFP so recently? Can we now just move into? Yeah. And I thought that you had asked that question of Will.
Yeah, I did ask that question of Will, but, you know, he basically said as long as we've gone through this entire process already and nobody had taken it, and then suddenly it's like trying to sell a car and nobody wants the car, you've gone through the process.
It's pretty good evidence that you're doing what you can, and that sole source is really your option there.
So we do need to go sole source even?
Well, I see that the RFP was under 279B, so that would put us on a cap where if it's anything over $10,000, we have to at least do an informal procurement. So that would at least require going out and getting 3 bids.
Again,
yes.
Even though we tried that.
So at this point, I think since we already went out for an RFP, we'll cover our bases and make sure that we're
Judge, so you're actually talking about a lease, though. You're not talking about a procurement. You're not. This is industrial property that's available for lease.
That's correct. It is a lease, and I was a little bit confused with the RFP as to why it was being let under 279B, because it's a lease.
It was a request for proposal to lease the property, and there were no responses. So, you know, you have I'm Peter Mitchell with the Port of Arlington, by the way, guys. So it would be available basically to the first leasee that would come in and want to lease the property.
So we did it under the wrong number, is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not. I'm assuming that it was done under the right number. If it is in fact a lease, then there are some different hoops to jump through. But if it's a straight lease without anything that's provided to the county in return except for cash, then we could not use 279B, and we could just go through the statutory procedure for leasing of the property, which is pretty basic. So I just need to take a close look at it, look at the numbers, and see what we can do there. Because if it's just a straight lease, then we can get around calling it, well, I shouldn't say get around, then calling it goods and services just doesn't apply. It's not that we're skirting around anything, but we're just using that straight procedure.
Okay.
So it's a situation where I just need to take a look at the terms and what you're trying to do, and see what pigeonhole I can put it in.
Okay.
And that's basically, we're looking at just a straight lease.
Right. Can you hand this down to Ruben?
Is it the RFP or?
That was
That's the lease that was
the lease that we had
drafted by
with,
Will.
Okay.
And this lease is leasing the equipment for the city.
That's right.
We're not moving it.
Not running.
Yeah.
Just come in as an operator work that.
Yeah.
Load trucks.
And we had we have the equipment lease and a business property lease for the land at the time there too.
Okay. Well, that certainly simplifies things. I think we can just enter into another lease and go from there then. So, but I would like to double check
Okay.
the reason why there was a 279B.
Okay. So I guess really my next question, Ruben, is I think where this goes is for us to fill in some of those things that are blacked out in there. I'm thinking that maybe if we end up having to go out for RFP, then maybe this should be done, or whatever it is that we have to do, possibly opening it up. Maybe the next portion of this conversation should go into executive session to, you know what I'm talking about, Mike, is negotiating with some of this, yeah.
Negotiating a real property transaction. So
Yeah.
then we'll enter, yes, we can do that.
Okay. So, yeah, I think it was E, if I remember right. Yes. So I think, are you guys comfortable in going into that type of negotiation with them right now? Or do you still have questions for them that maybe we should have more open session? Okay, all right.
I think we have a willing lessor sitting in
Yeah,
front of us.
right.
We should proceed from there.
And there, I think they are.
I didn't know you were looking that hard for it.
Yeah, okay,
We feel
so.
kinda good?
Well, we don't necessarily have to do executive session. I mean, if there were 3 other people out there that wanted to lease it, then that would, we would want to do that, but if we just want to
Okay.
figure out some terms, we can do that in open session.
Okay. Yeah,
We don't
I
have
just.
to, though. We can do either one.
Yeah, I was just wondering, where you were talking that maybe you might want to go back and look at more in 279B as to whether, and I mean, I guess really what I'm looking for out of this is, can we just go ahead and go through with what that is because of all the other things that we've done, you know, or can?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, here's my thought. Is, I think we can sit down at this point and we can nail down what the terms of the lease we want to be.
Okay.
And then just give me a couple of days to make sure that the county's jumping through the hoops. If there's any public notice requirements, I just can't think of what exactly we need to do off the top of my head without looking open the statute book. There's a lot of different things for public property.
Right.
So then as step 2, I can make sure that we're jumping through the hoops we have to make the lease.
Okay, okay. So with him saying that, should we go ahead and negotiate a deal in open session? Or should we?
That's always fun.
Yeah.
Not the first time.
Right here. There you
Yeah.
go.
I mean, it seems to me that if you've seen the lease and you're good with it, it's the term and the rent. And
Yeah,
that's about it.
that's about it. So.
So
Well,
normally,
and this included that, yeah. We have to adjust it that the equipment list is shorter.
The equipment list is
The
shorter.
trucks are
you know.
longer there.
Yeah, when that was signed right there with WI at the time that they did it, the trucks were basically out of service.
Oh, that was the tip, that was.
That was,
That was excellent.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Is this all right? That was the original, okay.
No, we need to talk about that. Let's clarify how much. The $750 part
Mhm.
is relating to a certain area,
1 acre.
1
Yeah.
acre. Yeah. And is that, we need to know if that's what you need, or do you need more?
That's good. That's good.
You know, 'cause that's kind of,
It was a little bit difficult.
they actually used a larger area.
Yeah, I kind of explained that
That
to.
got in, we don't even need to go there, but what we need to know from you is, what you need.
What we're gonna produce is way less than what they ever produce. You know, we're gonna just come out of there with a couple loads a day. You know, I don't know for sure what they were doing, but I think they were supplying quite a bit of concrete to the wind farms. So they had a lot more trucks, a lot
And-
bigger stuff.
And then the fact, so that you know too, if you want more, what the additional cost
Cost
would
would
be.
be.
Okay,
too.
right. If I needed more, okay.
Yeah.
So to, you know, the land, the mass that is there now, if you took with the echo blocks that are there, is 2.87 acres. Okay. 1 acre is just about, you know, right where the gravel piles, there's small amounts of gravel right there. So you have the batch plant that is sitting here, and there's a small amount of gravel, and it's right, almost in line with that.
Okay.
I think, so what we'll do is I'll give you a GIS map, or printout of where that particular property is, so that you know what 1 acre is. So our prices are $750 for the very first acre. It's $400 for each additional acre after that.
Okay.
So again, these were some issues that we had with the previous tenant on how many acres were actually there.
Right.
So
Okay, got it.
I think did I send that off to you or not?
The agreement? The
I
agreement?
sent the agreement, but I didn't send off the.
No, nothing scheduled.
Okay, so it'll be a GIS map, and I'll have the assessor print one out for us real quickly. All right, so then the next thing we kind of needed to look at was the per cubic yard, the price that we had. Is that
Right.
correct?
Right.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, some of the discussions that we had was roughly $7 a cubic yard. That was, you know, some time ago when we had people who had expressed interest prior to us sending out the RFP. Are you guys, how does that sound to you?
Well, kind of jumping into it the way we are, I mean, that sounds fair.
Okay.
I don't know, you know, this is kind of last minute for all of us.
Sure, sure.
As far as I know, that's a fair price.
Okay. Length. We usually like to go a year on things.
Okay. Well, I know that for these contracts, I'll need it at least 6 months.
Okay.
So if you have a year minimum, okay.
Well, we don't really have a minimum or anything like that. It's just a comfort level. It makes it kind of nice to go a year. What I can say to you is, you know, we do have a wind project that is coming up here. I think they're going to begin breaking ground sometime this summer.
Okay.
So that might be beneficial to you.
Sure.
You know, having, for lack of a better way of saying it, your foot in the door kind of thing.
You got it. Yeah, if there's still opportunity, we'll keep the ball rolling.
Okay.
You bet.
And there's a lot of things that you and I have never really talked about. I mean, to be perfectly honest, other, for lack of a better way of saying it, projects that I think are right there on the horizon for this batch plant.
Yeah,
Really
so there might be some
beneficial.
opportunity there.
And, you know, full disclosure here to the two of you, I know I sent an email to you, both of you knowing that, but I don't think everybody else is aware. I went to school with Brad's older brother. We played football together, and I did not know that until our very first conversation that we had. I knew I had dealt with you in my previous employment with Devon Oil and Hanover Distributing, and making sure you guys got fuel on a regular basis. So I suspected it. I just never really knew which Thompson it was that I went to high school with that it might be tight.
There was a few.
Yes, there was a few of you. So anyway, I want to make sure that everybody is, this isn't something that, you know, I'm trying to.
Not an under the table deal.
I wanted to turn this over to Commissioner Weatherall, but everything was moving really quickly, so. Yeah, very quickly. So.
In the lease that we had before, it said the rental was a month-to-month tenancy. Do we want to change that for this?
Well, yeah, with this situation, now that was because that agreement is with WI Construction. And my point with Jack at that particular time was, look, if we get somebody who's interested in getting into this, you're, you know, unless you're willing to sign something that goes a little bit longer.
Okay, that was the shorter, that was the
real short thing that we
yeah,
had.
the month-to-month one.
Right.
And previous to that, we had, I don't recall what the previous.
10 year.
10 year.
10 year,
10
okay,
years.
okay, yeah.
Should we do a renewal though for 2 successive 1-year terms?
What was that?
Can we do a renewal though? Say this lease can be renewed.
Sure,
To
yeah.
one-year terms on the written
Right.
agreement of the parties.
Yeah.
And then probably some notification in terms of, you know,
If either
a
party.
month or whatever.
Right, so,
Two.
30
A
days.
written
notice.
notification or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then terminate. Exactly. Sounds good.
And I would think that the liability insurance covers the cost of the equipment.
Probably wouldn't cover the cost of the equipment, and it looks as though it's a little
The
bit
way
low.
yeah, wrote those was the leasing covered the cost of,
Of the equipment.
you just said all the liability. You talking about,
Well, the liability insurance wouldn't cover the cost of the
no,
equipment.
but they were required, I think, under the original lease agreement, WI was required to insure it.
Right.
Okay. I am concerned about the liability insurance because it's a little bit low by today's standards. The typical is to start with at least $2 million for any one injury. And that would be my recommendation, is $2 million for a minimum to injury one person. And that's because the state tort caps now have gone up to
Yeah.
1.6.
That's pretty standard for what we insure things for.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else?
I don't have anything else. And I don't think there's anything more that we've talked about. Is there?
There's not, there's a few details, and with the leftover concrete, it'd be nice to have forms. I see that there's a lot of, you pour your extra concrete into those forms for a college block.
Mhm.
Are any of those available? I didn't see any on site.
There's none on site?
There is for a special form. Do you know what those concrete pieces
Okay.
are?
I asked Dewey about that. That's part of the equipment list that should be on site. And I'll just note here, there should be 4 2x6 ones, 2 2x4, 2 2x2. So we'll have to check and see where those are located. I'll talk to Dewey. I thought Dewey said that everything was there.
The ones that were there, I'm not sure what they were for. They looked like maybe they were forms for cattle guard crossings,
Oh, yeah?
That's kind of what they look like.
Yeah, they did that, for sure,
They were making some of those.
because the county got some of those.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Right.
Yeah.
But we're willing to.
Well, if you look on the back page, this was the,
Right.
yeah, so. Okay, I would. Okay.
Other than that, I guess we lower the condition of it once we start.
Sure.
What do we do if there is some kind of damage due to lack of maintenance?
You didn't have a copy of this?
Well, I give it to
Oh, okay.
Ruben,
You
yeah.
might want
Okay.
to look that over too right now, just to make sure there's something else to think about when you look at it. The maintenance thing, yeah, certainly, yeah, that part probably needs to be spelled out a little bit.
Yeah.
I can see the maintenance of, once I take it over, make sure
Yeah.
it's put it back into as good or better condition when I
Yeah.
terminate the lease. But
I think that's.
prior to the lease,
Mhm.
kind of make sure everything's working.
Right.
And we probably need to put some language in it,
Right.
yeah, on that.
So, I firmly believe that, before we end up turning it over to them, the lease that we had, if there's any issues with it, we can go back to the previous leaser to make sure that, it was supposed to be left in good order and repaired during the entire term of the lease, so.
So we did have a little use by another operator besides WI.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And they did find some damage that they fixed too at that time. It was pretty minor.
Yeah, one of the things that they left the water on during the winter, yeah. Dealt with frozen pipes, but they.
It appears to be winterized at this time.
Yeah, it is
Just by
winterized.
looking at it.
So,
But you don't know until you fire that thing up.
Yeah, well, again, I think Gene will be able to help guide us through that, and
Does Dewey Kennedy have anything to do with this?
Well,
portion of
he
it?
was the one my understanding, all those echo blocks were there, so I'll have to check with him, as to where they're at now.
Oh, they're gone?
Well, that's kind of what I heard from Gene, that there was.
They didn't find the standard ones. The ones for calendars were still the.
Oh, the forms.
The
Yeah,
forms.
the form.
That's all we're looking for is the form, so when we
Yeah,
have excess
right.
concrete, we can
Yeah,
have something.
right,
to it.
right. Okay.
Okay. I don't want to leave
So-
lots of concrete.
Yeah, Brad, what we'll do is we'll have Ruben try and draw up kind of a contract, get it off to you, and have you guys take a look at it. I think one of the things that we probably need to do is maybe get Gene with Dewey and maybe Brad, go through the operation or run it through. I don't think we could make a load of concrete, but we can actually make sure that, everything is operating correctly.
Well, we could pull a truck up there, and
Okay.
especially if those forms are there.
Yeah.
We'll batch out a couple of yards,
Okay.
make sure it's working, and then we'll just fill the forms, and have some blocks.
Yeah.
So that's better than getting
Yeah.
at the fossil and finding out something's not working.
Yeah.
Right.
We want to make sure that
Okay.
we're ready to go before we make the trip.
Really, this shouldn't be operative until you're satisfied that you can take possession of it and have it working. And
Right.
then we're good to go.
At that time, we're ready. Okay.
We can have that in 2 weeks.
I'll
That gives us enough
If you don't
time
mind,
for
I'll
them to be
get.
ready to go,
Yeah.
by March, so it really
Right.
fast.
Well.
They can take up the lease on March 1st, so.
That'd be good for us.
Right.
Can you word the motion so it's,
Oh.
you know how to do it?
Oh.
You can do it.
I'll change it. I'll probably end up changing it, that I can simply because, go ahead.
Well, okay, so the motion would be that we move to go into a lease with Thompson Brothers Excavating for the lease of the concrete batch plant and we want to put in the dollar terms at this point?
I think we should, yeah.
But we'll do that, and then, because that can be,
Yeah.
if it's not right, we have to come back and change it. So anyway,
Actually, my thought is maybe hold off till we actually have the lease in our hand.
And then do the
Approving,
motion.
And then we'll do the motion, we'll sign it then.
Okay.
And do all that.
so I think we got
I
a
didn't know if you were
consensus.
gonna get it ready before the next meeting.
When's the next meeting?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
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 That's enough time.
Right.
But I think right now, we do have a consensus to go ahead with this lease.
Yeah.
That's what.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay?
So,
All right.
okay, I think we're all in agreement that we'll go ahead and draft up the papers or do whatever it is to.
With the numbers we've discussed. and
Right.
Everything.
That's what
And he's
Thompson
taking
Brothers.
the notes, so.
Thompson Brother Excavating.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. So who's the brother?
Joe,
Okay,
Joe is my younger brother.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
we got 4 of them.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, my motion's withdrawn.
Okay, all right. Well, it wasn't seconded, so it died
Yeah.
for lack of a second. All right. Okay, good.
So in the meantime, in the 2 weeks that you're preparing that, can I get with Dewey and start the
I will,
process of
yeah,
checking out the...
One of us will get a hold of Dewey today.
Okay.
And
That might be good.
Or, well, not today, probably tomorrow, because I don't think I'm gonna get through all of this before the day ends, but get a hold of him tomorrow,
Okay.
and then have him get a hold of Gene, and then maybe between Gene and Dewey, they get a hold of you guys, Justin, whoever, and we'll,
Probably the driver that's going to be doing most of the batching.
Okay.
So if there's some training going on, I want to make sure he's there. So
Right, right.
training.
right.
You bet, we could just get
I think
the time
the
together.
priority number one is make sure that it's a good working order. Okay. And so we can get that step done, and then you'll work with Gene as far as the training and everything that goes on after we get it okay. As far as
Yeah,
good
I
working.
think Dewey's part is pretty minimal.
Yeah, it is. It's really, yeah. I think, really Dewey's part is gonna be trying to find out where those echo blocks are.
Forms.
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 Yeah.
Forms for
Echo
the blocks.
forms,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, all right.
Great.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Good
Thank
to see you,
for
Brad.
that. All right, you too.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Justin.
You guys, next meeting is in 2 weeks. Wednesday.
Yeah, Yeah, but we've got a lot of things that are sort of going on, so we may end up having to do something a little bit earlier in a special session. And if we do have a special meeting, we'll take care of this during that if legal counsel Ruben has things ready for us, so, okay?
All right, one more question is,
Sure.
I know that you sell it out of your pit, is that right, to the public?
We prefer not to. There is somebody who, a private company that does do that,
Okay.
Brad.
And they're here in Condon, right?
Actually, no, that's WI. Gene would be the person to talk to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They have a crusher that sets down in the Willow Creek area, so,
Okay.
yeah.
But
If they can't handle you in the period of time that you need it done, then I guess we could talk.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah.
Talk to you guys too.
Sure. How's it going?
At all. We're going to try not to, but we do have a few minutes before next 1 o'clock.
Are you taking a break or?
Did they give us napkins? Yeah, let's take a break. Let's pause it.
Okay.
Chapter 9.